Good morning and welcome to the Mike Graham Show. I'm Mike Graham. Something wrong with my collar. What's going on with that? Hang on. It's this shirt, I think, which the collar kind of peeks out. It is too big for me, yeah, but it's not just that, because I've got other shirts that are too big for me.
He's wasting away.
I am wasting away. It's all this work I'm doing. Emma Wolf is here. Very good morning to you.
Good morning.
We don't know what happened to the music there. It's got a bit funky ever since Elena got here from Russia. She'll probably get sick of me saying that. But the music's changed somehow. Somebody said Donald McLeod should definitely be an option on the poll, which is your favourite thing about Scotland. There's a new poll out there. Maybe we do two polls. Favourite thing about Scotland: 1 haggis, 2 whiskey, 3 kilts, 4 Nicola Sturgeon. Because Nicola Sturgeon in Scotland is still very much page one news, not so much in England's newspapers. But we have to talk first about Nicola Sturgeon, don't we? Well, Nicola Sturgeon and the Laura Kunsberg interview.
Yeah,
that wasn't.
Which was a bit of a nothing burger.
Yeah.
And also, I have questions.
Were you sitting there like me, going, ask her this?
Ask her this,
right?
Ask her that. I had a whole list of questions that should have been asked. But I still have questions. I want to know.
Yeah.
Who was the hairdryer bought for?
Yeah.
How does a Dyson Airwrap, which are lovely hairdryers, by the way, they cost you upwards of £300 to £400.
Yeah.
They have about 17 different settings and nozzles and all sorts. You notice it.
Yeah.
If that turns up, it's like a Maserati turning up in your driveway.
Yeah, or an £80,000 Jaguar.
Or an £80,000 Jaguar.
Which she didn't think was odd either.
Or a motorhome.
Or a motorhome. She never saw the motorhome,
Or a
though.
really fancy coffee machine turning up in your kitchen.
And she also couldn't tell the difference between a £2,000 pepper grinder, which I can't even imagine what that would look like, a £2,000
no, but that
pepper
must
grinder.
have lights and flashing
But it
buttons
would have
and all
lights
sorts.
and electricity and all, diamond encrusted, top. Or, I don't know, but how do you pay £2,000 for a pepper grinder?
Are the Italian pepper? I mean, are they literally being imported from Italy in real time? There's something really fancy going on there.
Yeah.
2,000.
I mean, I have been known to go to Borough Market and the Spice Mountain shop and buy some very nice fancy peppercorns, but they're not that expensive. They're £5 or £6 as opposed to £1.
In Borough Market, isn't there a very fancy thing that you can spend about £100 on, which opens your cans automatically?
I don't. Probably. I actually bought a can opener which is made in Germany.
That was it.
Which doesn't have 2 long arms. It's just got one thing you attach it.
That goes
and
around
it's really good.
Yeah.
Because I used to have trouble with salmon.
But one never opens cans anymore.
I still open them occasionally. Not very often.
I can't remember the last time I opened a can.
Yeah.
Anyway, to get back to Nicola Sturgeon, I don't think she answered any questions.
No.
I don't think she was pressed to answer any questions, and she just got tearful, and it was a real letdown.
And she refused to apologise, which I thought, again, Laura Kunsberg let her off the hook because she was basically trying to give off this, I'm a woman who's been personally injured by my husband's, malfeasance. However, she didn't address the fact that she was also the woman who kept denying there was a problem while she was running the party. Whenever people, 3 members of the Treasury Committee resigned, the Finance Committee, the Treasurer of the party resigned as a result, and she still kept telling everyone, everything's fine.
Exactly. People
That's
were
the problem, isn't it?
People were raising issues. She either wasn't across it or she's just in denial.
Yes.
And now to be fed this line about,
she's covering it up.
I'm living in this prison. Yeah. Well, exactly, covering it up. Even more worrying. And this isn't just someone that she was close to. Yeah. This is a man that she was married to, she was living with. Yeah. And we can joke about the pepper grinders and the hairdryers. But what was she saying? What was she thinking? Just that they were very expensive gifts? Well...
Yeah, I mean, I think what's clearly the side issue is that they weren't really living together. I mean, I was thinking about this, and they didn't make it clear, although I know there's a longer version of the interview. When you're the First Minister of Scotland, you live in Bute House, which is this very lovely, sort of Georgian-style house in a big square in Edinburgh. Yeah. So but she didn't say that. She didn't say, well, I was hardly ever home because I stayed at Bute House.
I know.
She didn't say that she didn't make it to the family home more than, say, once a week. She didn't make any of those points, which you think she would have made if she was trying to make out that she didn't know what was going on.
She wasn't transparent, and there's still seriously stuff being covered up, and we just don't know what it is.
Exactly right. So we've got a few clips that we should look at, I think. Starting off with Nicola Sturgeon saying that she never saw the motorhome.
1 second, Mike. Sorry.
Have we got anything?
Yeah, we were just chatting about.
And £1. That motorhome was parked in your mother-in-law's drive for a long time. And yet you say you knew nothing about it. Did you visit your mother-in-law's house then in that period?
Less than a handful of times, probably.
So you walked past the motorhome?
No, I didn't. And this is the thing. My mother-in-law, or my mother and father-in-law's house, has a driveway in front of their house where we would park our car, and then we'd go into the house. Where the motorhome was round the side of the house, which is not immediately visible in the way that we went into the house. And it's between their house and the next door neighbour's house. Now, I genuinely don't have any conscious memory of seeing that motorhome. If I saw it, I probably would have assumed it was a neighbour's. My mother and father-in-law were in their mid-80s. I would have just not, it wouldn't have crossed my mind it was theirs, and it would never have, why would it have crossed my mind that it was the SNP's, that Peter had bought it?
Well, if you go to somebody's house, a family member, and there's a new vehicle parked in the drive, it's somewhere you go regularly.
The thing is, it wasn't a
normal thing to say, oh, that's it, or even to say, has your neighbour got a new motorhome? And it was never discussed?
Never.
Ever?
Never.
At all?
I genuinely do not recall seeing it in a way that I registered it and thought, oh, there's a motorhome.
What did you think it was when you saw in the SNP's accounts in 2021 that shows clearly tens of thousands of pounds being spent on motor vehicles for a political party?
That didn't register with me in the accounts. I would quite like to take...
seeing it?
I don't remember seeing it. The National Treasurer didn't draw it to my attention.
I don't recall seeing it in the accounts?
No, I don't. As a member of the NEC, as all of the members of the NEC, we would look at the National Treasurer would present them. The National Treasurer would, draw to our attention any items he thought we should pay particular attention to, and people in the NEC would ask questions. But no, I look back on this and think I wish I had sort of the thing about it. Wasn't from memory now that I've seen it. It doesn't say motorhome, it says motor vehicles. That could have been the rental of motor vehicles or something like that. So it didn't particularly jump out as something that caused me to question things.
Did you?
I mean, Peter just said it, she's just lying, isn't she? I mean, she's literally just lying. And the idea, we'll show you another clip in a minute, but let's have a look first of all, this picture that somebody's done, which is the funniest thing I've seen for a while. This is one of those, when you're signing in and it says, please tell us where the traffic lights are. She can't see the motor, she's struggling to log into a website because she can't see where the motorhome is. Because that's literally the size of the thing. Mm-hmm. And it was right next to the house, which is not a big house, and there's a guy who walks around it, which we'll show in a minute, who says it's impossible for you not to notice it. There's a window looking out from the house to where it was parked, right? If you went in, it's like somebody coming in here and saying you didn't see the circus tent, right behind the front gate.
Totally
because I was going in a different door. I mean, you wouldn't miss it. And then 120,000 in the accounts, she goes, oh, I just thought it was, it might have been for hired cars or something for the campaign. And you go... But
that in conjunction with the fact that people were raising questions.
Yeah.
If it was just that she was just vague and very busy and didn't visit the parents-in-law, but in conjunction, the fact that people were saying, what about the finances?
Yeah. And people, like I say, were resigning, and she was being very unequivocal, saying, don't worry, there's no missing funds, stop asking questions. In fact, worse than that, she was accusing people of being conspiracy theorists if, in fact, they were pushing this line that the money was missing.
Exactly. And OK, fine. If she really is that vague and that in denial, then that's one thing. But as you said, I think in your weekend wind-ups, she was meant to be running the country.
Yeah. And she was meant to be this micromanager as well, that she was all over everything, that she knew everything that was happening.
And she is a detail. It's not credible.
She's apparently not now. But have a look at this. This is a guy who's doing a little report for The Sun in Scotland. It's number 9 on the video list. He goes to the house and has a look around and shows where the camper van actually was.
Because Mrs. Munnell's house is the first house in the street, it's not easy to miss, especially when there is a big camper van in the driveway. As you come further down, there is a second driveway at the side of the house, and that's where the camper van was parked. So, as you can see, here is where the camper van was found. Now, on the side of the house here, there is a window that goes directly out onto this driveway. There's also the gate to the back garden there. And it also stuck out. As you can see, it's a really long driveway. Now, this camper van was massive, so you couldn't miss it. If you were coming in this side, I mean, you can see up onto the main road up there from here. If you're coming down this side, you would have to obviously go past it. And even if you were parked on the drive over there, there is absolutely no way that you could miss it.
So is there any way that a visitor could come here and not come across that camper van?
I don't think, no, not at all.
Is there any way at all you think that it's possible that camper van could have been parked there and no one would have seen it who visited this address?
I mean, if you were looking in the other direction, possibly, but I know if I was walking up here, if I parked there, you know, you're going to look up the street, you're going to see it poking out, and as well, there is a window from the property that goes directly on to the driveway, and if you were in the back garden, if you were exiting via the back garden or entering through the back garden, you would have to walk past it. There is no way that you could miss it. I bumped into Nicola Sturgeon in this Asda in 2022. She was buying a frozen pizza and a frozen garlic bread. Now, I overheard her say to another shopper that she had family that lived in Dunfermline, and Peter Murrell's mother lives a 6-minute drive away from this supermarket.
This was in the autumn of 2022, the period when the camper van would have been parked outside Peter Murrell's mother's house. Is that correct?
Yeah. It was on the driveway. She would have seen it. She had to have seen it. How anybody could miss it is quite frankly absolutely beyond me.
I'm such a techie now. These pictures just said that I noticed his microphone was missing in the
come
final
on.
scene there. So I wonder what he did with it.
It was quite
but very enterprising of the young man to go out to the house, and they had to be careful because they couldn't show the actual house because that would be an invasion of privacy and all that. But you know, at the end of the day, he makes it very clear, as you would have said, if you've got a massive, great big vehicle, whether it's a tank or a motorhome or a big caravan, people notice.
People notice. It's
right,
the kind
but
of thing.
she didn't notice.
We all know our local streets, and we all get annoyed if someone turns up with a massive, great big caravan. You see that occasionally. You see it in London. You see it around.
Right.
But people don't like that. It doesn't look nice for the area.
Well, it happens. I mean, in the car park here, for example, occasionally you'll struggle to get out because all these vans appear out of nowhere, and you notice them. And I'll notice if there's a van that's been there more than once. You'll remember what the sign was on the side.
Of course,
you do. Somewhere
Did
you
she
live.
go in under cover of night with a hood on her head?
Yeah,
really, to not see it is quite a feat.
No, it really is extraordinary. And I mean, again, we could play stuff all day, but we're going to move on because, you know, she surely to heavens now must have to take the proper police investigation. She says she's going to release her statement to the police, suggesting that she didn't just say no comment. I don't know whether she said no comment, but that's not what we've been told. But another story that popped up over the course of the last couple of days was about, is in the Mail, on page 12 of the Mail, about Peter Murrell, apparently just as she was announcing the lockdown for COVID and telling people not to panic buy, guess what he did? He went out and bought 108 toilet rolls. Right? So as she was telling everyone, don't panic buy, her own husband was panic buying.
That is absolutely stockpiling.
Yeah.
Literally stockpiling.
Yeah. He also bought 144 bottles of Evian still mineral water and 4 packs of liquid laundry detergent.
Yeah, exactly. And this is the kind of, I need to be okay, but don't want, you know, the poor people can go without.
Yeah. Shocking. Absolutely shocking.
That is the kind of, and I know it's only lavatory paper, but that is the kind of thing that really, really got my goat during lockdown.
Yeah, when you couldn't buy anything.
And when they were all allowed to go out and do stuff, and we were being told. I mean, I broke most of those rules anyway, but we were being told to stay in our homes.
Yeah, but it wasn't even that. It was like you'd go. I ended up having to find. I found this Cypriot, really good Cypriot supermarket shop, which was around the back of Southwark Park Road, because they were the only people that had pasta. They were the only people that had rice. And I didn't want to buy 55 packets of it. I was going to buy 1 packet. But if you went to the local supermarket, there wasn't any.
No,
there wasn't any toilet roll. There wasn't any paper towel. There wasn't any pasta. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, and meanwhile, we were all told that you couldn't go and get a haircut, you couldn't go and get your hair done, and we were seeing female politicians, and women notice this stuff every single day on the TV. They clearly had their hair done. Meanwhile, my hairdresser, who is a one-woman band, was going out of business because no one was allowed to go in. We were all meant to wander around looking like, you know, hell on earth.
I know.
It's kind of okay for them, but not for us.
But, you know, the fact is, in the end, but we'll finish this with that one funny, the one time the BBC News, well, actually the second time the BBC News was ever funny. The first time was when they interviewed the guy who was a messenger, do you remember, who came in carrying something, and I thought, that one's great. But this is the second funniest one, right? This is number 11, when they accidentally played Jimmy Cranky clip instead of Sturgeon.
Hello, this is Breakfast with Naga Chetty and Charlie State.
It's 6:30, it's Friday the 14th of October. Let's tell you what's coming up on the programme. We're going to be joined by Scottish First Minister Nicola Sturgeon. We'll talk to her about plans for a second referendum on independence.
I'm sorry, we've very clearly run the wrong pictures of that particular sequence. My apologies there.
They must have done that deliberately, surely to God. You don't put wee Jimmy
Really
Cranky
looks
instead
like-
of...
Producer's done that. A producer's done
Yeah,
that.
producer's done that, who obviously doesn't like it, but who knows if they got fired from... They're probably still there, probably running the BBC now.
But I mean, on a serious note, you can see the way people rehabilitate their image. They start, you know, she's bringing out she's had a few soft, glossy interviews, moving down to England,
right. And she's
you
been on
know,
this book
bringing out
tour
a
as well.
book.
Because one of the things she was doing last week...
all part of the plan.
Yeah, when people were approaching her from various different news organisations at various functions that she was at, trying to sell her book, she was like, oh, please have some respect for the people who have come to see me talk about my book. No, how about you have some respect for the taxpayer and you have some respect for the people who you've been ripping off, who happen to be members of the Scottish National Party, who've had 600,000 plus quid disappear down the trousers of your husband.
Absolutely shocking.
And also, as somebody pointed out, he's not her former husband because they haven't got divorced yet.
No, they haven't got divorced.
So she's still he's still her husband, effectively. Anyway, there we are. Let's talk about Andy Burnham, the second most annoying person.
Yes,
this
absolutely.
morning, I think.
Who is so insecure that the man was even on X posting times of his 10K
of his
splits.
runs, yeah, I know.
It's like if someone says to you, oh, you're looking whatever, and you go, here's a picture of me at the gym. Like, how pathetic are you?
In my,
Firstly,
swimming trunks.
Be a serious politician.
Yeah.
We know you went for a run once. Well done. I don't know how many runs
you've
you've
been going for lots of runs, apparently. And I mean,
and now
nobody
he's
knows,
doing the 10K. He did
nobody
the
knows
great,
why he's doing it.
Great
We'll
North
play
Run.
a clip of his in a minute. But the front page of the Mail's good today. You've not won anything yet, Andy, because they let it out yesterday, didn't they? That if, in fact, he wins the seat in Makerfield, which there's no absolute truth to it happening yet, by the way, because Reform is still running neck and neck by the looks of things. And there's some very odd polling going on anyway.
There is.
It's very difficult to figure out what's going on.
It's really hard to call it.
But I wouldn't be at all surprised if he still doesn't win it, right? But he's now saying if he does win it, he's going to have a snap election, which nobody really believes.
No, yeah, exactly. I think this is double gaslighting because I got quite excited and I was like, right, that's what we want. So therefore, we need to get behind Andy.
Yeah.
But actually, I think he'll U-turn again on that.
Yeah.
He may be even trying to get people into the snap election because that's what we all want.
Yeah.
Just get rid of Starmer, anyone but
yeah, and then he gets in and goes, you know what, that election I promised you, well, actually, we can't do it. And you know what they'll say?
It's on a knife edge.
It's going to be too expensive.
Yeah, it'll be too expensive.
Because they're going to spend $4.5 million, I think, having a new mayoral election for Manchester if he goes.
Total waste of their money.
And he could say, couldn't he, and probably with some justification, we can't have a general election, it's too expensive. We don't want to waste that kind of money.
He doesn't want to risk it.
No, I wouldn't have thought so.
He'd be absolutely terrified to risk it.
I mean, there is an argument to be made, I suppose, that Reform might not be ready and they might not have enough candidates that are decent.
There is that argument.
You know, and that certainly is obviously something that people have been saying in the Labour Party. But the biggest problem that he's also got, front page of the Times, is, have you seen this? Unions are now... polling that 28% of their members would vote Reform, which is exactly the same number that would vote Labour. So they've effectively lost the working class vote in terms of union members.
Yeah, exactly. And it really is on a knife edge for the 18th of June. Because it seemed so obvious that Reform were going to storm it, and now it seemed that Burnham was pulling back, but also people are getting really sick of Andy Burnham. I think they're getting sick of all the campaigning and all the...
Can you imagine if you lived up there? I mean, all that's happening is
every other day you've got Rob Kenyon, you've got Andy Burnham posing with their biceps or their plumber's van or whatever. You've got Lee Anderson putting up, and this is no disrespect to anyone in Reform, putting up, road signs. It's like, really?
Yeah, I know.
What?
I know.
What do you take us for?
Nailing things to trees.
And from 19th of June, they won't be interested in Makerfield at all.
No.
I mean, none of them will be up there.
No.
None of them will be bothering.
Nigel Evans was up there the other day, who's a good friend of our show here, and he was saying this is the most important by-election in the history of Britain, and it's going to decide the Prime Minister. And it kind of is, which is kind of interesting.
In political.
What's happening with the bet?
Oh, we did a big update when you were away,
that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, what is happening with the bet?
So, the status is...
June the 21st, isn't it?
So, Mike has bet me, as you know, 21st of June, which is... the first day of...
Summer solstice.
Summer solstice, yeah. So today's the first day of summer. We got that wrong.
No,
first
it's not the
first day of meteorological summer is the 1st of June. No, but...
Well, I thought the 21st of June was not the first day of summer, it was just the summer solstice. So
it's the longest day.
It's the longest day.
Meteorological summer starts on the 1st of June.
Right. Yeah, so by the 21st of June, I'm sure people are loving this, by the 21st of June, surely the days start to get shorter, don't they?
Yeah, then that's when we're plunging into winter,
so it must be the
hence
middle
our
of
depression.
Summer, mustn't it?
That's our longest day.
So we agree about that.
Anyway, that's
Don't tell him he's wrong, though, because... Yeah, all right. I'm going to explain them. Have you heard about the meteors in Boston? Did you see those?
Yeah, they were
Exploding
amazing.
meteors in Boston. Amazing.
This is so exciting. I haven't even drunk my coffee.
Oh, I know. Sorry.
Should we update Pooch on the bet? On the bet. It's all on camera. It's all on camera. So Mike quintupled his bet.
Did I?
If you said it was 50, you said it was 5-1. If Starmer is still a legal, he can be squatting. No, if he is the legal tenant of number 10 Downing Street by the 21st of June, and I've even checked, that is a Sunday, so we'll be doing the show on the 22nd.
On the Monday, yes.
So bring your 50, which is going to charity. Then I win that 50 back.
Do you want a £50 note?
But obviously, I do.
Obviously, if you win.
I want a decent £50 note. And I also, and that will be following on from the, I mean, this is basically a money laundering operation now.
That's what we're doing,
The show is now.
We've got a big box of money over there. We'll just take some out of it. But yeah, so it could be, though, that on the 18th, Burnham wins. And Starmer resigns.
I know what you're doing. You're trying to move the goalpost.
No, not really. No, I'm just saying.
Because I don't think he'll be able to unseat Starmer in 3 days, but that's what you bet.
But he could have, again, by then created a timeline, though. So if Starmer says...
Interesting. That's why I
have to invigilate this one. If Starmer says on the 19th of June, which will be the Saturday, that I'm going to vacate... I'm going to vacate the... is it? Yeah, Friday, OK. I'm going to vacate the Prime Minister's office by July the 1st. Then what happens? Because I think I win.
No.
I think I win. No, because if he says he's leaving...
There will be a sitting Prime Minister, there will be a legal tenant of number 10.
Like, conferring on this?
Yeah, we're splitting the profits.
I don't like it.
No. You're seeing...
to just give the 25 quid to you now, as part of the bet.
It is, we're splitting it.
I can see.
You can see how unlikely it is that Starmer will be out. So you're trying to change the rules retrospectively.
Not at all. I'm just asking questions.
I don't know why, but we chose 21st of June. And you said Starmer will be out.
Yeah.
In fact, you've been saying it all year that he'll be out.
He will be out. He will be out. I'm sure of it. I'm absolutely sure of it.
It's now June.
But he might not be.
20 days.
It's one of those, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what I can say about Starmer is that he thought he was playing it clever at the weekend. Yeah. Because he thought, if I go to the Champions League final in Budapest, Arsenal will definitely lose.
Yeah.
But so he decides not to go.
Not to go.
In order to make sure that the jinx is broken. And they still lost. And so we've got to show you the penalty miss, haven't we, Pooch? Pooch has been laughing about this all weekend. And there's nothing against Arsenal, by the way.
No, I don't mind Arsenal.
We don't mind Arsenal. I mean, frankly speaking, when I grew up in North London, they would have been my local team.
Yeah, I like Arsenal.
But I didn't support them in those days. I supported Man United.
No, and can I just say, we were at the parade yesterday.
Yeah.
We were right in the heart of it, trying to circumvent it, but got dragged in.
You never smelled so much marijuana, though.
Just in public, a public open smoking of dope is unbelievable. Yeah. Middle of the day, and my kid, who's not a shrinking violet, he said, "What is that?"
Yeah,
because he knows the difference between cigarettes.
He recognises the smell, presumably.
And I said, "It's drugs. It's just drugs." But the police were there.
You smell it all the time in London.
But it is a shame when you have young kids who are around it. And I'm not saying, it's because it was an Arsenal thingy.
No,
they were lovely. It was a lovely, friendly, warm atmosphere. But when you have thousands of people, and we were on the peripheries of the parade. Thousands of people in streets and in parks. It was a beautiful day, and they are smoking and they are drinking, and there was a lot of loud music. And the police do nothing about drugs.
Yeah, well, because
I'm not even anti-drugs, but it's weird that now it's
not
legal.
Pleasant, though, is it, to walk around?
It's legal to smoke marijuana effectively on our streets.
It is. I mean, I go on buses sometimes, and you can smell it on the bus, because it's so the smell is so pungent now that it seeps into people's clothes. Yeah. So if there's somebody on the bus who's been smoking it, it smells like a dope bus.
But when you're walking past people and they're blowing it out, and you have kids with you or anyone, it's
not.
It's weird that the police don't care.
I don't think it's a good thing. Anyway, let's have a look at the Gabrielle missed penalty. Apparently somebody's made this into an hour-long clip, but we're not doing that. Heartbreaking.
Heartbreaking.
Imagine Keir Starmer, who then put out a tweet basically praising Arsenal as having won the Premier League and coming so close to European glory. No, you didn't come close to it, you lost it. You either win or you lose. The great thing about sport is, you don't have this kind of ludicrous, thanks for taking part crap.
The truth is, I think what we've seen over the last week, Starmer actually cares a lot more about football than he does about running the country. And look, I'm a football supporter. I have a Liverpool, thank you very much. I have nothing against people loving their team, supporting their team. Yeah. But the most angry I've ever seen Starmer, tweeting-wise, was when he said, these ticket prices are way too high. He got really exorcised about that. Then he got really upset about PSG winning.
But he also wanted the Champions League to be free,
To be free to air, not ticket prices.
Why doesn't he tell the BBC
subscription
to make the BBC free? Maybe you could do that. Kelvin Mackenzie's arrived. Very good morning to you, sir.
Morning,
good to see you.
Good
Just having a
morning.
good laugh at Starmer's behalf. What was the other thing I wanted to show you? This is how they celebrated winning in France, Paris Saint-Germain style. Can we do number 7? Oh no, sorry, number 8. My apologies. You wonder what they would have done if they'd lost.
I know, exactly.
Right? They set fire to the place when they won.
It wasn't that bad in North London, but I have to say, on the Friday, when were they playing the PSG, the final, the Champions League final?
Yeah.
I think it was Friday. You could
Saturday
hear
night.
Saturday night. You could hear like there were kind of earth tremors in the pubs around our area in Islington. So Highbury was rocking.
Speaking of earth tremors, apparently, and we'll maybe get into this later, there was this massive fireball, meteor fireball over Boston. People's windows were shaking apparently, and and I can't explain it because Pooch will know more than me about this, as he does about most things.
He'll make
I
it up.
can't explain the scientifics of it, but apparently the meteor shower was a lot closer to Earth than it normally would be, and the fireball was a lot bigger than it would normally be. So you could actually hear the sound, and people were waking up. They didn't know what it was. They thought it was like some kind of military attack.
Well, but speaking of astral movement, have you guys seen the moon last night, the last few nights?
It's so bright.
Absolutely
it's like
astonishing.
floodlight.
It's a blue moon, it's much smaller and much lower. Did you notice it was much lower in the sky?
I ended up having to shut the curtains, it was so bright.
Really incredibly bright. Not so much on Friday because of all the cloud, but then last night it was really amazing.
Incredible.
I think we've got it for one more night.
Yeah, we've got a favourite thing about Scotland on the poll this morning. Is it haggis, is it whiskey, is it kilts, or is it Nicola Sturgeon? You might be surprised that Nicola Sturgeon's coming last at the moment, 8%. Whiskey at 53%.
Yeah, I think
kilts
whiskey.
Coming in second at 21%. You a fan of kilts?
No, absolutely not. I cannot stand it. When you see men getting married in kilts and you think, you've just married a man in a skirt. Oh, I shouldn't have said that.
See, in Scotland, it's like a thing. When I was working up there, you'd go to like a black tie dinner and half the men are wearing kilts and the sort of Highland dress. I didn't mind that. I thought it was all right.
Each to their own.
Does not. Don't even know. You see, he's already doing it. It does not make me unlike other men. Anyway, meanwhile, what else we got?
In the playground.
The big showbiz marriage. The big showbiz marriage was today. Do you care?
Well, they legalised it. They had a ceremony. Dua Lipa.
Celeb Marriage of the Year, the Sun calls it. Dua Lipa has married a guy called Callum Turner, who apparently is the next James Bond.
Everybody is the next James
Shouldn't
Bond. How many people have we heard is the next James Bond? If you haven't been named as the next... I bet Kelvin's been named as the next James Bond. It's the kiss of death, the next Bond.
What about... should they not have said Dua Lipa marries James Bond? Wouldn't that be a better headline? Well, I can ask Kelvin.
They did a London ceremony. They've now got 3 weddings in Italy or something like that.
Yeah, you can't get married once anymore.
No.
You have to have
has
at
to go
least
on.
2 parties.
People have to fly around the
I
world.
had 2 wedding parties because I got married in New York and then I had another party in London for people
that worked out well,
come.
didn't it?
Well, it works out well for a while. It's like harsh, very harsh. Also,
Look, I hold my hand up. I've been engaged 5 times, but I never made the ultimate mistake. Right. I was bright enough.
It always you that cancelled it, though.
Absolutely.
Right?
I
Kelvin,
thought,
of course, guffawing with laughter, has been married about 15 times.
Yeah.
The idea that he's somehow going to make fun of me for only failing my marriage once. I mean,
Twice?
It wasn't that bad. Only once.
Oh, okay.
I never got married again.
Okay.
So, Anyway, also, final question for you, because it's almost time for you. I know you've got to run. Page 17 of the Times, have you seen this? This is a good story for me. Cyclists in Holland are going to be told that they're going to have a speed limit put on them. Right?
That's interesting. I'm cycling much faster than most of the cars in London with this ridiculous 20-mile-an-hour limit. You can get places so much faster by bike.
Would you say you go faster than 20 miles an hour? on your bike?
It's really hard to measure it. I don't have an odometer anymore.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, if you're
they're talking about, it's too dangerous now apparently in Holland, and so they're trialling a speed limit of 12 miles an hour.
That's slow.
That's quite slow.
That's really slow.
But I mean, I would be in favour of that because I'm always worried. I mean, I nearly ran one over the other day because he came up, and there's a cycle lane way over there on the right. He came up on the inside of the car, and I sort of moved slightly to the left. And nearly hit him, and then he went around me.
It's the way cyclists weave around. It's the way you suddenly get a swarm of them coming at you through
why
the city.
Why are they not in a cycle lane?
But also, it's the way the Mayor of London. Of course, it's Sadiq Khan's fault. Did you see the Eid celebration taking over Trafalgar Square again?
Yeah, I know.
That was interesting.
I know. There's still no comments allowed on his Twitter. No. Also, I saw the worst picture of Sadiq Khan ever on a bike wearing a cycling helmet.
See that.
So now I hate him even more.
I thought he was on pilgrimage in Mecca.
No, he's wearing a cycling. I'll show you the picture. I'll send it to you.
That would upset me.
He's in Richmond Park or something with a cycling helmet on a racing bike.
I did not know. I didn't know he was a cyclist.
Bike, actually, he probably got it from the children's section at Halfords because that's how small he is.
But I think it's the way they've arranged. You've got bus lanes crossing over cycle lanes, crossing over roads, so you don't know where the bikes are going to come from.
No, and if there is a cycle lane, surely you have to use it, don't you?
Yeah.
If you're a cyclist, why are you not in the cycle lane?
Well, you can use the road as well.
Why?
But it's quite tricky when you're on
I'll just drive in a cycle lane.
Okay,
They should pay a licence fee.
Yeah.
Okay, look, down in Rotherhide, for example, the cycle lanes go over floating bus stops.
Yeah.
So you're basically people are getting off the buses,
and
old
getting
people,
hit by cycles.
and getting hit by cyclists because they've put the bus stops on the cycle lane.
It's a mad idea, yeah. That's where I got my phone pinched from because you didn't see the guy coming around the back with his moped. But anyway, there we are. We digress. 7:33. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
And it's going to be not quite so hot this week, so hopefully it will be cooler for you cycling around. Emma Wolf, thank you very much indeed. She'll be back next week, same time. Coming up, Kelvin McKenzie is going to be here, but first, some news with Edward Hughes.
Good morning, all. I'm Edward Hughes. Britain's waking up after a scorching bank holiday where we hit record 35 degrees Celsius heat. And naturally, 5 people drowned in open water because nothing says fun in the sun like ignoring every safety warning ever. Brilliant work, everyone. Meanwhile, the BMA's declared a genuine crisis in medicine and is striking again in mid-June because the NHS waiting lists weren't quite long enough yet. Energy bills are set to climb another £221 a year for the average household. Because what's a summer without shivering in July, wondering how you'll afford the kettle? Politically, Reform UK's nipping at Labour's heels in the polls, while Keir Starmer's crew plays musical chairs with leadership ambitions. Same circus, different clowns. And in breaking news, the weather's been so nice that even the usual miserable headlines feel slightly less soul-crushing. That's your news. Laters Tigers. Laters.
Yeah, just having a conversation about parking fines. I mean, amazingly, I haven't had a fine, actually. This is probably the longest I haven't had a fine for driving. Morning, Kelvin.
Morning, mate.
For about 6 weeks. Because I get to the point where I hated opening my mailbox because it was just all that was going to be in there was fines for either driving down a street I shouldn't have driven down, turning right when I shouldn't have, parking somewhere, getting a fine. Just ridiculous.
Because I pay 1,700 quid for your parking.
I know, because we kept both doing the same thing and forgetting either to pay for it, but then they started getting cleverer and saying, well, you've only paid for 2 hours when you were there for 4.
Yeah.
And you go, all right, then we'll just charge me the extra.
No, they hate you.
Yeah.
They hate you. They want you to do about 4 miles an hour to go around London.
Yeah.
But not only London, it's kind of spreading outwards as well.
Oh, it is.
By the way, you were talking about Sadiq Khan. I was puzzled. And you probably saw the publicity on it when he went to the Hajj.
Oh yes,
yeah.
And he dressed
he dressed in a way which was probably designed to make him look attractive to people from other countries. And he put a lot of energy into wooing, I thought, the Muslim voter of the UK in the religious manner that he embraced wandering around, making his way around the Hajj.
Yeah.
Right. Look, if he has a strong view about his religion, that's fine. I am astonished that he advertised it in that way.
Yes. But he's only offering it to one audience, isn't he? That's the point.
Correct. And which is normally the opposite of politics.
Yeah.
and I did not enjoy that.
No, I didn't.
Look, I'm not against. I don't care whether you're Catholic, Protestant, Jew, whatever. It was the manner in which it was done.
Yes.
It was. I almost felt he was using it as a battering ram against the non-Muslim majority of the UK. I felt very uncomfortable about that.
I agree. And here's another picture, the one I was telling you about, where it looks like he's on a child's bicycle in Richmond Park. I mean, it's a very odd
You see,
picture.
one of the mistakes that we have made, and we have got to change this, is
well, I put it in. I just put it in so you can show it.
So, one of the mistakes we've made in the UK is we haven't had a restriction on the number of times that you can stand as a mayor. So literally, nobody in their right mind within the Labour Party would want that little twerp to be joining, potentially as a Minister of State or Secretary, i.e. joining cabinet. Therefore, we could have this twerp because of the natural majority, which he was actually appealing to, rather unhelpfully or helpfully for himself. We could have him for the next 20, 30 years.
Did I not see somebody going to challenge him though in the next mayoral election, that they're going to stand against him?
Well, they may do, but I would say that that picture which he put out and his description of his embracing of Islam was designed actually to ward that off.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, certainly the one good thing is nobody's any longer talking about him as the possible next Prime Minister, because there was a time when he fancied himself as coming back into Parliament in Westminster and actually running the party. But I think that ship has now sailed happily.
Yes, and as well, he's got more security in his job as London Mayor than you have as Prime Minister, no matter which party you're part
Absolutely
of. Could
right.
I just say, by the way, on a positive note, I went to see last night Tuna.
Oh yeah.
The Leo Woodall film. Absolutely stunning.
Tuna,
okay. Yeah. It is a bizarre idea, right? And then when you get into it, it is absolutely compelling. I went because there was a 5-star jobby right, everywhere. And actually, when you watch it, right, Leo Woodall
Did you
was
actually
in...
go to the cinema?
Yeah, was in one day.
Yeah.
Right? But the smaller movie houses, Everyman and all that will be absolutely bloody packed out, because no movie houses are packed, or very few.
It's very expensive now, isn't it? I mean, I haven't been for a long time. I used to take my kids. It was a fortune.
It is absolutely right. The problem with going to the films is you can't take your phone.
Right.
So I actually, for the first time ever, I left my phone behind anywhere.
That's quite a good idea, actually, isn't it?
And then you can focus on it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, no matter what the storyline, it's like when you're watching a thriller on Netflix or something. You're sitting there,
tempted,
and then you're having to say to your wife, actually, why has that guy just shot that woman? What's happened over there? Right. However, so go and see Tuna, and go and see it this week. Leo Woodall, by the way, DiCaprio can move over because he's 29, Woodall. DiCaprio, I think, is now turned 50, although his girlfriends actually move younger.
Yeah, they do.
They move younger. So Woodall, I think, going to be a stunning kind of global star, to be honest.
Okay.
But anyway, the story...
It's a South Bank show, this, isn't it?
I'm just telling you. Look, I'm just saying to the viewers, right? I'm saying to the viewers, do yourself a favour, go and see it. Don't take your phone. You'll enjoy it. Right? I can't do better than that.
Okay. Start as you mean to go on.
Yeah.
We'll get Kelvin's recommendations perhaps every Monday.
Yeah.
What Kelvin did at the weekend.
I'm just saying I went last night. Didn't have anything else to do. We went and saw this, and it was worthwhile.
Did you watch the Champions League final?
I did watch it.
Did you pay for it?
I had already paid for it through my subscription basis. The idea that we have a Prime Minister who thinks every single time in this country, the idea is to tell people you don't have to pay.
I know.
The state will pay, or private industry will pay, or some bugger will pay.
Yeah.
The man is completely mad and makes himself totally and completely unsuitable to running the damn country.
Well, luckily
we have to pay for things.
Yeah.
Health, education, everything. We need to pay. And we also need you to get off our backs on the tax. Take the tax off and let us pay for what we want. For God's sake, man, get out.
I know. As I said, well said.
No, get out.
Yeah, as I said earlier, why doesn't
get out and watch tuna?
Why doesn't he rail against the BBC for charging people to watch the football? Because that's what they do, even though they do it in a slightly more, sort of underhanded way, right? Why doesn't he say that?
Fantastic. So this is the great news about Nigel Farage.
Yeah.
He's sitting there, scratching his rear end. He doesn't know anything. Picks up the Mail on Sunday and discovers that Ashcroft has said that he has been briefed by the BBC for a new book about Farage, that he'll never be a guest on Desert Island Disc.
Yeah.
This is despite the fact that, all kinds of people, Scargill, Powell, lots of people with views to the left and to the right have all been on there.
Yeah.
Right. So Nigel's sitting there thinking, this is a fantastic opportunity, this. So why aren't you having me? You're not having me for two important reasons. You'll upset the staff.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Right? Secondly, it may stop the wokies, who you've never heard of in your bloody life anyway, coming on there, picking out 7 obscure pieces of music, which they've never played in their life, by the way. Because I thought when I would go on there, I would pick up a whole series.
Have they ever asked you?
No, they haven't. No, you're right. So why am I even thinking about this? This just shows narcissistic conceit.
But ask Lord Ashcroft if you've also been blackballed, because you may well have been. Maybe they've said, we won't have Kelvin MacKenzie. You might upset the staff
there
as well.
There are parts of the country that might turn off.
Indeed.
Good. Anyway.
Because they're big fans of Desert Island Disc up in Liverpool, aren't they? Listen to it all the time.
They do. And so, anyway, so the good news is Farage says, here's an opportunity.
Kelvin, what tune?
Let's do our own Desert Island Disc with Kelvin.
I would play some Doja Cat.
Okay.
It's a rap artist.
Crikey, I wasn't expecting that.
I would play a little bit of Bee Gees.
Bee Gees, what's your favourite Bee Gees song?
It's all the stuff. Anytime.
Staying Alive?
Yeah, sorry.
Just came to me,
Well, anyway, look, it's generic sounds. I prefer rather than.
And a bit of Oxygen, Jean-Michel Jarre.
No, I don't think that would make it. But look, everybody has a choice, and so now he says, right, I'm going to scrap the licence fee if I get elected.
Yeah.
And that the bottom line on that would be thousands of BBC jobs would go.
They should,
right?
as well.
Which actually mean that there are more people to be employed. For instance, there's a new lady producer here today.
Yeah, Elena. Welcome.
Welcome, Elena. And there will be more Elenas working for not being subsidised by the state.
Yes.
Actually being subsidised by being paid by people who are risking their money. And so, people would get 170, 180 quid back from the state and not having to listen to anything that they didn't want to listen to nor pay for it.
Yeah.
So I guarantee to you, about a year, 18 months, so we're still 18 months out of an election.
Yeah.
Surprise, surprise, out of the blue, would you, Nigel H. Farage, like to pick 7 discs on a record?
Because the new boss of the BBC will be trying to show that he's got a different attitude, won't he, at some point. Because he's also fighting off the people who want to reduce the licence fee or do away with it altogether. So he's got to start playing the game, isn't he?
Okay, well, imagine the conversation, right? You are the DG, you're talking to me. I am the senior, I am the executive editor of Desert Island Disc.
Yeah.
Okay, call me up.
Yeah.
Go on.
So, good morning, Kelvin. We'd like to talk about Desert Island Discs and the future plans you may have for different people being given the opportunity to tell us what they'd like to play on a desert island. Who have you got planned for us?
Well, I have a Romanian tap dancer who once tap danced at an Easter ceremony in Bucharest. Okay. Anybody else?
Anybody from the world of British politics, perhaps?
Look, I wonder whether I might cut to the chase on this, Mr. Director General. Are you suggesting to me that I should take Nigel Farage?
I didn't mention Nigel Farage. No. I didn't, no.
Okay, well, let me just make my position clear. I've spoken to my staff.
Yeah.
In the event that we are being forced by the senior management of the BBC to take Nigel Farage, we have decided collectively to resign and take our redundancy money.
I see.
So poke that up your rear end.
Thank you very much indeed. It's been great knowing you. and have a nice life.
Right, well, that's the point. Now your response should be, so your response there is, thank God for that, another 10 hopeless people off the payroll.
Because I think at the BBC, you're not far off the mark there, because it seems to me that the people who run this programming think that there's nobody's got any business telling them what they should be doing. Yeah. They should be allowed to completely have free reign, politically and culturally, and no sort of horrible person who might be actually in charge of them should have a view.
No, that is absolutely true. But mind you, I've come across that even within private. Oh yeah. Even with commercial industries, you sometimes get the staff start to begin to think it's their money.
I once had a woman who was the news editor, not particularly good. She's now working bizarrely as a civil servant for the Scottish Parliament, right? And she
Can I just say? Fiona McTafferish, if you're listening, by the way, this is not designed to be offensive. It's just an anecdote.
It's an anecdote of my career in broadcast journalism, which I think you'll find to be quite amusing. Anyway, she had a boyfriend, right, who was Northern Irish, who had gone off to cover some cricket tournament in the Caribbean without checking with us first. He was a freelance, right? And we needed him to do some other things, and I found out he wasn't there. So I fired him on the basis that we didn't want to, we didn't have people telling us what they were going to be doing for us, She comes wandering into the office the next day, and she says to me, I think what you did was wrong, and I think even if you had decided to do that, you should have consulted me first.
Really?
And I said, really? Well, that's interesting. I said, well, I don't know where you think you're working, but it said, but she had worked at the BBC. I said, it's not the BBC, and if I decide to get rid of somebody, I'm going to get rid of them, whether you like it or not, or whether you're sleeping with them or not, it makes no difference to me. Thanks very much indeed. Would you mind getting out and read the news?
And what happened to her?
Well, she stayed for about another couple of months, and then she left, got another job.
And where is she now?
She's working in the Scottish Parliament as a sort of civil servant.
Oh, she'll be well at home.
Copper bottomed.
And what happened to the boyfriend?
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I used to tell him. He used to think he was one of these clever guys from Northern Ireland. There's a lot of them, and we had quite a few interesting exchanges. Lots of references to the banging
Scotland, of Northern Ireland. Shall we give a whack to Wales while they're
We can do that later. I also worked down there for a while. Piers Morgan kept sending me to all the regional parts of the country. I don't know why. He didn't want me in London, I think.
It was to try and to bankrupt them.
Actually, sorry? Super chats, yeah, let's do some. A couple have come in. We've been seeing quite a lot of stuff, actually. This is from Cookie Boy. Was it a new American stealth camper van? Yeah, this is the camper van that there's a great picture, which I want to show Kelvin in a second, of Nicola Sturgeon. When you get those, when you have to log into a website and you get those grids where it says, can you please point out all the traffic lights?
Oh, yeah.
And there's this one here, where Nicola Sturgeon finds herself struggling to log into a website.
That is funny.
Isn't that good?
That is bloody clever.
She can't see the motorhome.
And that is a very clever idea. This is one of the great things about the online world.
Yeah.
The number of rather nasty and very clever and funny people out there is fantastic.
Because there's no way that in any world you could...
Did you see that one that I put out yesterday? Now this is fairly...
I retweeted one of your tweets about Nicola Sturgeon, I think.
Yeah, was that? Yeah, but it wasn't that one. It's this one here. How can you see it? Can you?
Oh yeah,
that one.
Hold it closer to the... If you give it to me, I'll hold it up.
Go on, you do it.
How about that? There. Can you see that?
Hold it in front of your face, that's it.
Can you read that?
Can you read that?
It says...
It's a picture of Murrell.
Yeah, it says, prison or share a bed with Nicola for another 20 years. I mean, on the basis that he may not have shared a bed with her ever, I wonder. Whether or not that would be a real question. But it wasn't an extraordinary interview from Laura Kunsberg, who didn't really ask... I mean, I was sitting there, as I'm sure you were, so why don't you ask her this or ask her that? She doesn't ask the right questions.
Well, that's the reason they appear on there.
Yeah.
They don't get asked... I mean, in a sense, television does all the work, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Actually, the camera, somebody famous, a camera on you, even if you say nothing.
Yeah.
I remember once the difference between the power of the camera and the power of the word is the following. At the end of a long story on a local paper in which there's some misspent money by Southwark Council, at the end of it, a spokesman, the last two lines always says the same, a spokesman of Southwark Council refused to comment.
Yeah.
That's of no account. However, in television, you get a picture of a comms guy walking down the stairs like this, going like that, right, saying, I'm not commenting, I'm not commenting. That is enormously powerful. So that's what told you that this actual television is everything. And actually, you can add a little bit to it. But to be honest, on its own, a TV camera is enormously powerful against a printed word. Now, a printed word can be powerful, and I don't doubt the journalism. All I'm saying is that if you get somebody going like that,
that's what Nicola Sturgeon spent most of last week doing before she agreed to do the interview with Laura Kunzberg, because people kept turning up at these book events that she was holding, and I mean there was a very funny one where she was like walking like one of the sheep pens. She was walking between desks to get away from the camera, and it just made her look guilty as sin, you know.
Yes, and of course now the next thing she's decided is to, despite the fact that she's wanted to spend all her time getting away from the South, getting away from England, she now decided to live down here, which I found very puzzling.
Very odd.
Because she believes in her soul, and I take it that she does believe in it, that Scotland should be an entity.
Yeah.
Right, regardless of her, and I take it she's innocent, right? If she's as innocent as she says she is, why doesn't she just deal with, you know, the shouting that she's probably going to get when she walks down major high streets?
Well, because as you pointed out, I think something like, is it 40% of people in Scotland don't believe her?
60% don't believe her. Frankly, don't believe her.
Yeah, and so I think once you realise as a politician, because she obviously used to love the fact that she was seen as this great women's kind of leader, a bit like Jacinda Ardern. Remember her?
Yeah.
You know, don't talk to your neighbours. Used to be her favourite line. You know, the whole running into 340 at Haydock with those teeth. And now she's been discredited because it turns out actually her policy for locking down New Zealand wasn't any better than anybody else's. Right? And now for Sturgeon, if she knows that she's as unpopular as she currently is, and a lot of people now hate the idea of independence, she never wants to be seen on the streets again, I suspect.
Right. Well, what about this, though? Have you seen what's happened now? Somebody's done some research into the list of things that Murrell has now admitted he's done. And one of them is he bought 110 lavatory rolls.
Yes, this was while she was telling people not to panic buy.
Right. So what? I don't want to get down to the nitty-gritty of that, but what on earth did she think she was wiping her rear end on? Was it a copy of the Daily Record? No, it wasn't. No. It was one of 110 loo rolls.
Also, where did he put them all? And where did he put them all? The thing that I found puzzling, I said this to Emma Wolf when she was here, and we'll play her weeping session in a second.
By the way, I don't know anything about Emma. What's her background? Where did she come from?
Emma Wolf is the great niece of Virginia Woolf. Right?
Oh, is she?
And she's an author.
You're going a bit upmarket, are you?
Well, listen, we got everything here. You know, there's literally the sky's the limit. And she's an author.
Come on here because I thought you were a similar intellect to me. I didn't realise.
Yeah, I am, but I told you, I get some people on who are more intelligent than me, and some people on who are more stupid than me. It's a very rich mix of talent, you know.
And to which area do you think your current guest might?
I think you're a very intelligent man. I think for considering your IQ, you've done very well in life. And to be honest. Congratulations.
Yeah, well, thanks very much. And I'll take the £2 next time. So.
But the thing she didn't say, which I would have thought would have helped her case, was that, you know, and I've been inside Bute House when Jack McConnell was the First Minister, right? It's a beautiful place in Edinburgh. It's the sort of grace and favour mansion for the First Minister. You can stay there, you can live there. I assume for an awful lot of this marriage, she lived there when she was First Minister, and she didn't actually go home very much because they clearly weren't necessarily, you know, in what you would call traditional type marriage. And maybe she only went home once a week or something, or maybe once a month, I don't know. Because if you're buying that level of stuff, you know, it must have been a garage or something.
Yes,
you know?
it's not, I don't know what the
You can't put 108 loo rolls in the toilet, can you?
No. Did you see the other story, which actually caught my eye, which was the Sunday Times, actually? I thought it was slightly better this week. Honestly, they must think people have nothing better to do than sit there and read 5,000 and 6,000 word expositions about. So it's no wonder their sale is by the way, it's way below even the Sun.
Is it going bad on digital as well then? Because I thought their digital offering was doing all right.
Well, I don't know, but their printed offering, because I get both, I can't understand it. But their point that in fact Murrell had been at it when he was working for Alex Salmond and got moved on and then picked up by Swinney, right? The current leader of Scotland, if anybody doesn't know or anybody cares actually, right? Well, how is that possible?
Yeah.
And how is that possible also that Nicola, that his wife didn't know that there'd been some kind of question mark about why I'm all right. Not much appeared to have disappeared. It was between £500 and £1,000 disappeared out of the office.
Yeah.
But that was certainly a sign.
But that was the beginning of it, wasn't it? And clearly, also, she didn't just, she wasn't just kind of done badly as a wife, as she was trying to make out yesterday with Laura Kuenssberg. I've been let down by my husband. I'm not, guilty by association, all the rest of it. Yeah, but she was guilty by association because she told people quite categorically when she was asked that there was no problem with the missing money and it had all gone to independent spending. And she completely did. In fact, worse than that, she more or less called people conspiracy theorists for questioning where the money was, right?
Okay, can I just for a second raise the other side of that argument? Is it possible with very clever kind of con men, we'll say like Murrell is, right? Could he literally have deceived her? Is it possible that actually by living living separate lives, by covering up, after all, the investigation itself took about 2.5 years.
Because the SNP government was so what's the word, tightly controlling everything, that they controlled the police, basically. And they probably put this one on the long finger, let's not worry about that. You can take as long as you like looking into all this stuff. And I suspect that that's what happened.
But there was a cleverness associated with what Murrell has done. Is it possible to be married to somebody who is clearly a thief and not recognise it?
I don't think so, unless it's a completely sham marriage.
Okay,
I think all of us would say that there have been things that have happened in any marriage that you don't necessarily know all the details of. But for somebody to buy all of that stuff for years and years and years and years, and for you not to notice. I mean, she said she didn't notice the £2,000 pepper grinder. She didn't know whether or not it was a cheap one or an expensive one. Really?
What about the £110 pencil sharpener?
Yeah.
What about that? Now, okay, my question about all this, I'm not here defending Sturgeon, is where did he keep all this stuff?
Well, I've got a message from our friend Mark, who's currently listening. He says he put the loo rolls in the camper van, obviously. Maybe that's where everything went. Maybe it wasn't just a camper van, but it was a massive receptacle for all the stolen
loo roll
filthy lucre, But let's have a look at this, though. This is Sturgeon, number 10, talking about the jewellery that he bought her, right?
In 2019, I'd been campaigning a lot in Shetland, and we went to visit, as part of the campaign, we went to visit this amazing business, the Shetland Jewellers. And I was being shown around the shop, and I stopped at this pendant. I mean, you've seen pictures of it, it's beautiful. Later that night, Peter said to me, "I've got a surprise for you." And I saw you admiring this pendant and gave me it. Sorry. I loved that necklace and I wore it a lot, and this is the other thing. The idea that I would have gone about wearing things that I had known were anything other than what they were presented to me as, a gift from my husband, and to then find out that these were gifts given to me that he'd bought with the party's money, causes a level of, I don't know, pain, bewilderment. I don't know, I'm not sure. I'm going to try. I'm just not sure I will ever properly come to terms with that.
I mean, I'm not buying any of that. I'm sorry. I'm not buying the tears.
Yeah, well, it's not for sale.
No.
That'd be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it might be on eBay.
It goes with the house.
Well, that's another good question. I mean, I would have said, if I was Laura Kuenssberg, by the way, former First Minister Nicola Sturgeon, where is all this stuff now? Where is the, have you brought the pepper mill with you to London? Is the pendant you're talking about there that you're weeping about, are you giving it back to somebody? Are you selling it? What's going on with it? Where is all the stuff?
Right. Well, there are a whole load of questions of which she is totally incapable of asking. This is a once-a-week job. Now, what will be interesting is what she's getting paid for that 1 week, right? Because anybody who sits there, doesn't matter who it is, if you were there, right, you in turn would be making 300 a week or 300 a year or whatever. So that's one of the examples of the BBC completely losing control, that they've bet the ranch on Laura Kuenssberg. I'm not saying she's stupid. She's not stupid. But when it comes to questions have to be difficult.
Yes.
So the question then is, if it were difficult, would anybody actually ever turn up? Because one of the things that emerges, and I think this is true of the expression, I can't breathe. So George Floyd says, I can't breathe. He dies.
Yeah.
Starmer sees the opportunity.
Yeah.
And immediately takes the knee.
Yeah. Andy Burnham too, by the way.
Henry Novak
Yeah.
says his last words were, like George Floyd, is, I can't breathe. Starmer doesn't see an opportunity, actually sees a trap for himself within his own party.
Yeah.
And says nothing at all. The effect of that, because presumably Henry was white and George Floyd was an American and black. Therefore, half the country, possibly more than half, now says, here is an example of a politician having two views about one subject, and the one subject is, with the police involved, is I can't breathe.
Yeah.
Why is it? So people feel very angry. And that is
quite right, by the way.
That's what will be happening with Laura Kuenssberg and with the old
Nicola Sturgeon.
Nicola Sturgeon. Why on earth either face the fast bowling or don't go to the wicket?
Yeah.
And the BBC tried to do both.
Does it not tell you something about the paucity of talent in politicians now? Because there was a time, for example, if you wanted to be shown to be a decent politician, you would go on the hard talking shows. You would be interviewed by Andrew Neil. You would allow Robin Day in those days to talk to you. You know, you would put yourself up for the Inquisition, because if you did, you would be seen as somehow a bit more honest, at least facing the music. You know, whereas now, all the time we get this.
They issue their own video press.
When I was at Talk, I would get maybe 1 in 4, probably not even more, like 1 in 10 maybe of the morning rounds from the Labour government, because they didn't want to come on. They viewed me as somebody that would just give them a hard time, which was true, but not in a nasty way, not in an unpleasant way. And by the same token, they won't go on other shows, like, for example, well, Nigel Farage has been accused of not going on the BBC as well, at times when he was booked to go on and then he suddenly cancelled, But the point is that there's an awful lot of Labour people now they'll go on Trevor Phillips, who probably about the best interview, I think, of a Sunday morning, and gives people a hard time. But even he kind of gives up. I mean, he had Pat McFadden on yesterday, and Pat McFadden was kind of dancing around this idea of the minimum wage and how Labour didn't really fix it. It was fixed by the Poor Wage Commission or something like that. And you kind of give up after a while. After about 5 times of asking, he just kind of gives up and goes on to the next question, because they become so good at not answering.
Well, I tell you what is some good news that's coming out as you're watching the media splinter. I was told the other night that Andrew Neil is going to replicate that BBC show that used to follow Question Time on Thursday night.
I used to like that show.
Yeah, he's going to put that online.
Is he?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And how it's going to work, I imagine he'll try and get Diane Abbott on. He'll probably try and get Michael Portillo on.
Yeah.
And actually, to be honest with you, so what you're starting to see alongside shows that you do, and possibly alongside shows that I might do on your network, you're starting to see the breakdown of the traditional political base of network TV. I mean, who gives a stuff what? I can remember when Channel 4 used to have some heavyweights. Nobody gives a stuff about who'd want to go on these shows anymore. And therefore, if you want to reach people, they have to go on shows like yours.
Yes. Well, because nowadays the moment that people say, "Oh, have I got news for you on?" Better put it on.
Yeah.
Nobody does that anymore.
No.
And particularly when you do put it on, and you see that all they're doing is making fun of Donald Trump or Boris Johnson, and not saying anything about the Labour Party or the Labour government. And it's all a bit kind of
Hislop and Co. They have become millionaires on the basis of that.
They have.
Multi-millionaires.
Well, they've been doing it for years.
It's our money.
Yeah.
It's our money, and they make something like literally 15s, 20s, 30 grands a show, and I object to the fact they come from one political perspective.
So do I.
But that's the only way I suspect that they can get people to come and it's the only way the BBC would do it.
Yeah.
They wouldn't do it as in the middle attacking, a plague on all your houses. What's wrong with that?
No.
What's wrong with
exactly
the plague
right.
on all
And the other reason it's only able to be done now on the BBC is because they're the last holdout of the kind of the union embraced world of television working, where you have to have seven or eight people doing the job of one person, where instead of Elena sitting there and Pooch, there'd be a whole team of about 25 people.
But she's looking exhausted already.
Well, I mean, it's a very tiring job. He had her in here about 2 a.m. Because you had to reset the whole system. Anyway, no, but the point is I was reading a piece yesterday in The Sun about how Lorraine Kelly now apparently is considering moving into the online space.
That won't work.
It won't work for her.
And it won't work for her, and it won't work for that lady who does This Morning Britain, who had that threat on her life.
Holly Willoughby.
Holly Willoughby. It won't work for her. Those kinds of we must be nice to all kinds of people kind of approaches will not work. Now, look, if she comes out as who she is, after all, she lives in she and her husband live in a £4 or £5 million house in Barnes or something.
If Lorraine Kelly did a show based on what she really thinks of all the people she's interviewed, that would be something people would watch, right? But she's already talking apparently about bringing her team with her, and that doesn't work because it's too expensive.
Well, if she puts her money in, expect her suddenly to go bust at
She will, because I mean, one of the reasons that she's upset is that they've cut her show from 1 hour to half an hour. They've fired 300 people. 300, not 3, not 30, 300 people from the ITV production unit, right? Because they can't afford it anymore. And that's why they're dying. But only the BBC is still able to do that because it's our money that they've got. Billions and billions of pounds of our money.
Right, yeah. Look, if somebody decides to be who they really are, then of course that would be fantastic. I mean, this is why somebody like Piers Morgan makes a great success, because he's the same kind of guy off screen as he is on screen, and therefore people embrace that.
Yeah,
I think.
And again, I go back to the old Howard Stern argument, which is that for every person that likes you, they watch you for 20 minutes. For the people that really don't like you, they watch you for half an hour.
Do you know,
and there's some truth to that.
Howard Stern made the bet. He must have made that bet 25 years ago. He said the future does not lie in old-fashioned network. It was radio at the time. So in there, he went up on the satellite. They paid him. So the people who really deserve the credit here, not only the Howard Stern credit, was the fact that the investors said, "You are the future."
I remember the story.
And they paid him an absolute
They paid him
fortune.
$100 million, right?
And
in January. And they said, and everybody in the business went, "This is the craziest idea anybody's ever seen." Because not only do you have to sign up to pay a subscription to get this stuff of about approximately $12 a month, which in those days was quite a lot of money. You also have to buy a receiver, which you didn't previously have, which will connect you to a satellite radio network, right? Now, my sister just bought a new car.
It
comes in the car, Sirius Radio, as a perk, and you get it for free for the first year, right?
Okay.
So he made the $100 million back in subscriptions in 2 months.
Yeah. So the question is, and this is a question for your viewers, is supposing, I'll be announcing some kind of news in relation to your network.
Oh, how exciting!
And in the future,
you can't be told Pooch because he's not mentioned anything.
I don't want to tell the chief executive, just in case he tells anybody. But I thought while it was on your show, nobody would hear it anyway.
Thank you very much. Very wise.
So the question is, would people be prepared to pay? Okay?
Yes.
I mean, we spend a lot of time talking about subscription and the like. Would anybody be prepared to pay? Would that be the ultimate test? Because no matter what it was, that would surely be the ultimate test of whether you were actually popular or not.
Yes. Well, it would be. But it wouldn't be the only test, and that's what's great about what we do, because there's two tests in a way. There's the people who do pay, who, for example, are on the Substack that we run, because they get to see the show for free. But we also give them a few little extras as well, like features written.
You promise not to say anything.
I get the dog out as my last the last bastion, the last holdout of a scoundrel. Just get the Labrador and sit there with him, but they love it. Similarly, we've got YouTube members who will pay. And they will get it ad-free as well because they don't like the adverts. But on the other hand, you can also test your popularity. We're just about to hit 24 million views, right? Really? It was only 23 on Friday. It's another million over the course of the last few days. And we'll be 25 million soon. And that's all people who don't pay to a large extent. But we get money from YouTube for that. So there's a sort of double... But you're right. I mean, I guess if you're going to be... if you can do something which is on subscription only because...
So Clarkson, for instance, supposing Clarkson said, look, I'm getting on a bit, I'm 65 now, I'm clearly none too well, and I can't carry on at this pace. If Clarkson did an hour-long show every day, I suspect, and it replicated the kind of quality which he gets both on TV and in print, would people be prepared to pay for it? I suspect they might do.
I think they would. Well, because that was what Amazon kind of banked on, right? Because Amazon said, right, we'll pay you a bucket load of money to bring Top Gear effectively over here. And then they boosted their sales by putting him on for free if you were a member of Amazon Prime. So it can work both ways, I guess, right?
Yes, I mean, he's so powerful that I don't know whether you saw any of Britain's Got Talent.
No, I've sort of given up watching that.
Okay, well, you did well, because actually the truth is Britain hasn't got any bloody talent, and we know that from just looking at the Labour government. We don't need to watch a show about it. It was, by and large, terrible. First of all, there was hardly anybody British on there.
It's gone through its...
However, it was Clarkson's kind of choir, that farm choir.
Oh, I saw that,
Right, so based on the name, I think, of his beer, actually, to give him absolutely his credit, which won the day. Now, actually, normally, that choir, fantastic that it was, would have been about number 5 or 6. So it goes to show how poor it is. But Clarkson himself, a compelling figure, despite punching out somebody, despite doing this, despite doing that, actually people say, we think this guy is a genuine guy.
Yeah, because he is a genuine guy. Similar to what you said about Piers Morgan, he is what he says on the tin. He's the same guy. And his farming show was brilliant. Anyway, we'll come back to all of that because we've got to talk about Makerfield coming up shortly. We've got our next guest, a political strategist and director of CPAC Great Britain, Joseph Robertson. First, shall we have some news with Edward Hughes, do you think? Let's do that.
Morning all, I'm Edward Hughes. Britain's waking up after a scorching bank holiday where we hit record 35 degrees Celsius heat. And naturally, 5 people drowned in open water because nothing says fun in the sun like ignoring every safety warning ever. Brilliant work, everyone. Meanwhile, the BMA's declared a genuine crisis in medicine and is striking again in mid-June because the NHS waiting lists weren't quite long enough yet. Energy bills are set to climb another £221 a year for the average household. Because what's a summer without shivering in July, wondering how you'll afford the kettle? Politically, Reform UK's nipping at Labour's heels in the polls, while Keir Starmer's crew plays musical chairs with leadership ambitions. Same circus, different clowns. And in breaking news, the weather's been so nice that even the usual miserable headlines feel slightly less soul-crushing. That's your news. Laters, Tigers. Laters.
Thank you very much indeed. Edward Hughes there with the news. We're working on some new news breeders, actually, Pooch, because you know how you and I have got a slight problem with old Edward Huges and his rather sort of erratic behaviour. So we've been sort of testing a few others out. We might give them a run out with your approval. Later on in the month, because we're in a new month now, June, big month of course as well. June the 18th is a big by-election. People are calling it the most important by-election in British history. I don't know if it's quite as big as that, but before we talk to
can I ask you this?
Joseph Robertson,
if you had to bet, but I was offered some odds on Makerfield. Who wins?
Well, I still think Reform are going to win it.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, because I think the polls are all over the place up there, and I can't work out whether Restore Britain are doing well or not, because they've got people up there who are telling us that, we're polling at 25, 30%. I'm not sure I buy that, but the smaller poll from the Times, which was only, I think, less than 1,000 people, says they're on 7%.
380.
And you can't really rely on that sort of number, because I was once told by a pollster, anything less than 2,000 people is not worth really paying any attention to. And I keep hearing that Reform and Labour are pretty much neck and neck. So I still think that there's time for Burnham to lose it effectively, because I think there's an awful lot. I mean, if you saw this story here about Reform's vote in the unions, it's now at the same level.
Why is that a surprise? Why is an analysis, a poll, a survey of trade union members, right? Working class people are voting neck and neck between Reform and the trade union and Labour.
Well, I suppose it's a surprise, because if you work at the Times and you're in the Westminster bubble, you just assume that everyone in the union is always going to vote Labour.
Yeah.
But that's wrong. We've got the odds here. I can never read these.
Labour 3-1 on.
Yeah.
Labour 3-1 on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Reform 14-5, so almost 3-1.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, which is when you looked at American predictions on, in the predictive market in America, that was what the odds would have been if you backed it actually about 3 or 4 weeks ago.
People say that. They say that the bookies are rarely wrong, but they are sometimes wrong.
Sometimes.
Anyway, let's talk to Joseph Robertson. But first, let's have a look at what Andy Burnham has been saying, because he's starting to annoy the hell out of me. Right? Let's have a look.
Now, this has been a tough campaign session. I did the Manchester 10K this morning, 53 minutes, not bad. But coming up and down the hills in Hindley after that has been a bit tiring. And it's also been a difficult 24 hours. I've had all kinds of things thrown at me, all kinds of accusations of this, that and the other. Barely any of it true. The thing is, I could reply in kind and start point scoring about others, but I'm going to stick to my promise that I said to you at the start of this campaign. I'm just going to talk about what I'm going to do, what we need to do to change Labour, because that's what this campaign is all about. So I just feel stronger and stronger in that message, and I hear from people on the doorsteps that that's what they want to see, a Labour Party they can believe in again. I'm not going to do the point scoring about others, whatever they throw at my direction. I'm sticking true to what I'm all about in this campaign, and that's your campaign update for Sunday evening here on Sandy Lane in Hindley.
See, his update, and he's been doing these now for about 4 days, right? A daily, video diary. He doesn't tell you anything at all about what he's going to do. There's more U-turns than Keir Starmer, and he's only been running for 2 weeks, right? Because he should
go on the Britain's Got Talent, where they always have a dog on there that does that.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, why don't they
Just
make
get him
Andy
running
Burnham?
around. Yeah, and he's making out. I mean, he's saying, "Oh, I'm not answering any of my critics. I'm not giving away anything. I'm not responding." He put out a tweet at the weekend to Nigel Farage saying, "You're getting a bit desperate, lad." Used the word "lad" like some Mancunian sort of, hard nut. And it's like, don't try and look hard, mate. You're a politician. You've been in think tanks all your life. You can punch your way out of a paper bag. He's now pretending to be, a fighter as well as a runner.
That is a good point. That is a very good point about the fact we're going to have yet another one who actually has done nothing but politics.
Yeah.
Right? Politics is hot air and moving around depending on whether preferment is coming towards you or against you.
And hanging onto somebody's coattails for a while until you stab them in the back and then jumping onto somebody else's coattails.
And actually turning that into an art form.
Yes.
Right? And actually turning it into a career. None of who. So somebody like a Burnham, but also there'll be a load of them in the Conservative Party. I've got an MP at Elmbridge and Runnymede, right? Absolutely left-wing Tory. Absolutely, a complete waste of space, and he's exactly that kind of person, right? Let's hang on and hope I get some kind of preferment somewhere. And so Burnham, though, the trouble is we don't know anything about him, as you rightly said. He looks fresh-faced. I admire him for going for the runs. I think he's right to go down the social media route and not bother with any interviews of any substance at all. And I'm afraid, as you point out in your voting pattern there, that the bookies are seldom wrong, but occasionally 3-1 on favourites get beaten.
Yeah.
My feeling is, unfortunately, Nigel Farage, there's not an uncertain note on the trumpet, but in some senses he's being out-Faraged.
By Rupert Lowe.
Lowe.
And that is an issue. It's a big issue for him.
An uncomfortable area for... So my bet was, I don't know why, but literally over the last 3 or 4 months, he has said less and less about the migrant issue. In my view, watching these boats coming across the channel and landing at Dover is a significant vote gatherer for reform. And if they did nothing else, they said nothing else, that we guarantee we stop that, I suspect they do better.
Yes,
I think you're right. They start talking about social issues.
They do say it, but we're also being told we're running very late. It's your fault, by the way. So can you stop interrupting me?
Go on.
Because we need.
I'm sorry. I thought I was a guest. But
yeah. Well,
clearly, I'm here to take orders.
Well, hang on. Well, this guest was also a guest that we booked at 10 past. It's now 21 minutes
Well, I'm very
past.
sorry. It's not my fault.
I know. It's not your fault. I agree. Let's talk to Joseph Robertson now, political strategist, director of CPAC. Joseph, very good morning to you. Apologies for keeping you waiting.
Mike, how's it going?
Yeah, good to see you. What are you hearing? Because I'm hearing some music in the background, by the way. There you go. What are you hearing about Makerfield? Because we've just seen the bookies odds, 3-1 on for Andy Burnham to win, Reform 3-1, which would suggest there's quite a big gulf between them, which I don't think is there. But I could be completely wrong about that. I mean, the polling seems to be all over the place.
Yeah, well, there hasn't been any comprehensive polling done with a large enough sample yet to really understand. And
the music's back.
There we go.
Sorry.
So I was just saying there hasn't really been a comprehensive enough poll to say which way this is going to swing. One thing I would say that we're not talking about enough is turnout. And of course, in a by-election, turnout is everything. I think personally that the Reform voters are going to be a lot more motivated than Labour voters to come out for something of this sort. And I also think not enough has been said about how many Labour voters are going to go over to Reform, because I think that's a big part of it. Typically when pollsters are out there surveying, what they will find is that the people responding to those polls tend to be pretty hardcore voters who will go out anyway. But it doesn't give a very good prediction of turnout. It doesn't really say who's going to be on the margins coming out to vote.
Yeah.
Look, I think in a very pro-Brexit area, an area where typically elements of the right and even the far right have actually made gains in polling, it's unlikely that there's going to be a massive drive right now for Labour. I don't think there's going to be a huge amount of positivity. And so I kind of agree with you, Mike, that Reform are very likely still to come through the middle on this one.
Really?
Yeah, interesting. Because, I mean, again, hard to put a finger on it or a figure on it, the Restore Britain's vote, because, again, they're doing a lot of social media activity. They're sending an awful lot of people up there to campaign, but I'm not sure that that's a local surge, if you like, more than a social media surge. And I keep getting accused of being a sort of Reform shill, and I'm not at all that. I'm not a member of Reform. I don't vote Reform, but I just think that, again, it might be overestimated how important the Restore Britain. I think it's definitely a thing. As to how big of a thing, I don't know.
Well, it's an interesting one, isn't it? I think that it is a thing, but I think it's a thing more in urban areas. And the reason I'll give for that is because it's largely social media driven. What you tend to find with big, heavy social media campaigns, I remember Lawrence Fox doing the same thing with his Reclaim Party back in the day a few years ago.
Yeah.
Big social media traction doesn't necessarily translate to on the ground. It just doesn't hold out. And unfortunately for them, while they have got plenty of young activists up there doing their thing on social media, I just cannot see the good people of Wigan spending that much time on X. That it will give them the majority they need or anywhere close. I would personally put them down at about 3-4%. I don't think that poll.
I mean, I was thinking about this on the way driving up from Sussex yesterday back to London, as you do, and I think of Restore Britain as more of a protest party really now than they are, because they don't have people. I mean, you were saying that Reform are not being strong enough maybe on immigration policy, but they are also a bit broader. With Restore, you get Rupert Lowe doing interviews with people and saying, I don't want to get into policy. I don't want to get into the weeds of policy. So people who want to vote Restore, they're not sure what they're voting for exactly, are they?
No, what they're voting for. I feel quite uncomfortable. Right, so this will be opposite to many of your viewers. I feel quite uncomfortable about one particular thing that Rupert Lowe said about migrants and islands and midges and stuff like that. And so, in a sense, intelligent guy, I know him, but that's not for me, right? However, when I talk about Reform focusing on migration, there is nothing wrong with being commercially savvy, wanting fairness where it's possible, where you can afford it, welfare and all the rest of it. but actually seeing that image every day of boats arriving by the hundred containing hundreds of people, that is a compelling message to ordinary people, right? To say, please, we need somebody to do something about that. So can I just ask your guest something? 1 second. So I agree with you, Joseph, about the sense that you can get carried away on X and the like and social media. If you were going to bet your money, actually put down 20 quid with your bookmaker, what would it be on? Would it be on a Reform win?
I think I would put 10 on Reform, 10 on Labour. If you give me
lose money. You'd lose money like that, man.
I do think it is that close still. I'm not claiming Reform are romping to a sweeping win. And I think that every vote will count. I think the postal vote will come through a lot. I do think the fact that the Greens are running a candidate is going to help Reform immensely, because while they may not come out on the day and they may not campaign and there will be a little bit of shenanigans going on behind the scenes, I do think on the postal vote, people who are frustrated with Labour and want to move to the left will actually use that Green vote as their protest vote as well. So I think that's another thing to keep an eye on. But realistically, there is only one party on the centre-right that can win this. We know that. I don't think the Conservatives are going to go out and vote.
No.
Of course, we saw in Gorton and Denton that Conservative vote collapsed all the way down to a few hundred votes. So I suspect that will happen here as well.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because people don't. Because I was going to say, people aren't really talking about the Greens and the effect they'll have on Labour. That's a good point, I think.
Yeah, and also I like Joseph's point about the Tories. The only poll I've seen on that Sunday Times poll, actually gave 2% to the Tories. And so there's a lot of talk about Kemi the Magnificent, and I know that big powerhouses like Michael Spencer in the city go around saying I'm 100% for Kemi and all the rest of it. And I see voting saying that it's narrowing between the Tories and Reform and all the rest of it. What I don't see is that come the day that anybody actually ever goes out and says I'm voting Conservative.
Yeah.
Do you see that? How do you see that then?
It's not happening. In the local elections, it was quite clear that their heartlands, the places where they can win, will still go out and vote Conservative. The voters themselves are a lot more tactical than we give them credit for a lot of the time. They don't need to be told to tactically vote. They don't need to be told which candidates are going back. Very often they'll just do it. And Gorton, the left did exactly the same thing with the Greens because they realised that was the vote to go for. People will go out and vote based on what they think is best, particularly in by-elections where there's so much intense campaign action, because they get to really understand who is, in the ascendancy on the ground. They're going out and talking to their local people all the time. It's not typical to have 1,000 activists plus banging your door. There was one lady in Gorton who had her door knocked, I believe, 6 times by 10 a.m. and had put masking tape across the front of it, asking no party to ever enter again. Well, this is not standard politics.
No, it really isn't. And I was going to ask you, because vis-a-vis what you said about turnout, and I wonder whether there might be some people there who don't want a by-election because they already had an election 2 years ago. They already voted Labour, and they may now feel as if that vote has been betrayed because Andy Burnham fancies being Prime Minister. And you kind of go, well, why should I bother voting for him? And why should I bother voting at all? Maybe I'll just boycott it. And I was saying earlier, why would you want to walk around the streets of Makerfield right now? Because you've got a pretty good chance of being accosted, going to the shops
by an activist,
by some activist or other, going, "Are you going to vote for us?" Or having somebody nail a poster to the tree outside your house. It must be quite irritating.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's a bit like when you're wandering around Paddington Station and you keep on being assaulted by charity workers, wanting to know have you got a minute.
Don't worry, I've got a card reader. If you've got any cash on you, well, no thanks, thank you anyway. It's ridiculous. And I wonder whether there will be some voter fatigue or some level of that where they just go, like that woman famously said, oh God, not another one. The woman who didn't want another election. Because it is, people have forgotten, this is a very self-serving election. It may be very important, but it's very self-serving inside the Beltway, inside the Labour Party, inside the Labour government. And it's a sort of coronation of Andy Burnham. And that's what they seem to be trying to do.
Well, there's only 2 candidates in the race, Mike, who are actually from the area. One is the Reform candidate, the other is the Tory candidate. And like we said, very unlikely that the Tories are going to be getting more than a few hundred votes, in my opinion. So where's that local support going to go? It's probably going to go with the guy who they've seen driving around in a van occasionally fixing sinks, who, of course, ran last time. And people aren't talking about that enough either.
And he came second, didn't he?
He came a very close second. There was only, obviously Labour were far and away, but between him and the rest, there's a gulf as well. And so, you've got to think about what effect that will have. People aren't happy to see oddballs turning up from out of town. And, even the Restore candidate isn't from the area. I've seen plenty of comments accusing her of being a Tory from the posh part. So, there's lots of...
Well, again, we don't know much about her. Dan Wootton had a massive go at me because I made fun of one of her interviews. Because
Dan
she came
Wootton
out,
attacked you?
He did, yeah.
What,
yeah.
in what
because
way?
he claims that I'm a Restore, I hate Restore, and I'm sort of effectively accused me of being in the pay of Reform. He said you go out drinking with them, you go out, to rugby matches with them, you hang out with them.
Dan Wootton attacked you?
Yeah. I mean, listen, it's a perfectly reasonable thing for him to do, and I attacked him back. But, we're going to end it now because there's no point. All it does is create division amongst the right-wing people that I keep arguing against, And the point is that she gave an interview in which she didn't come across very well. Yeah. I said she shouldn't have probably put that out. And, everybody agrees with me, who's sensible. But, he played a different clip and then said, Mike Graham wasn't watching the same clip I was. No, I wasn't. It was he called me an elitist, yeah. I mean, I'm the least elite person you've ever met, I would imagine.
No. I need to be alerted.
Yes, indeed.
Time to think
anyway,
about
we'll come back to that. But the bottom line is that this is all about, whether or not we get a new Prime Minister. And do you believe as well that if Andy Burnham does win, that he will have a snap election?
I don't think it'll be a snap, but I do think it will come within the next year. I think what Labour have to contend with is quite how bad the economy is right now. They're not taking that into consideration, or certainly the people who think it's Andy all the way. The bond market is already telling us that it will collapse itself if Andy becomes Prime Minister. So I think that's something they've got to take into consideration. There's not really a lot of love for him outside of the Labour Party. And so if you're going into, this election, maybe you're going to have your youth activists coming back who believe it's all going to be Blair and Corbyn 101 all over again. But I don't think that he really has the groundswell with the city, certainly, and the people who matter.
No, not at all.
Do you know what?
Not
I saw a stunning stat the other day, throwaway line.
Yeah.
The GDP of the UK is smaller than every single state in the United States, with the exception of Mississippi.
Yeah, I think it's actually now been overtaken by Mississippi.
Right.
Yeah, we're below Mississippi.
How we don't have the money. We, as Starmer reveals himself, give Arsenal free, right? The answer is always from a Labour administration is give money to somebody, right, who hasn't worked for it, may deserve it, may not, but actually give it to them anyway. And unless we start becoming a wealthier nation, there will be more Burnhams. It's not going to be replaced by anybody who feels like we do. And on that basis, the country is going to get worse.
Have you also seen the Telegraph's front page splash today, which is that Rachel Reeves is now looking at PFI to fund new towns? I mean, they've not learned their lesson. I mean, they built a load of hospitals with PFI, and we're still trying to pay off the debts because it's not a good system.
But we have no money to do it. So therefore, what do? We borrow for the future and leave it for our children, our grandchildren, the debts to accumulate, rather than saying, actually, there won't be a new town because we haven't got any money.
No, but all that happens is they then give favourable terms to big business who will come in and make a fortune, take the money back.
No, they don't make a fortune.
They do.
Employ people who end up paying taxes, which is the legitimate way.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about PFI deals. Because what happened with the PFI deals is that they had these big companies come in, build a load of hospitals, and then they rented them back to the government, right? So the government paid twice.
How on earth, Mike, are we going to afford these things?
We can't,
right? And that's the reality.
That's my point.
So we don't end up with a hospital.
That's my point. We can't. The hospitals that were built using PFI are still in massive debt because the structure of them was the business people ran rings around the government because they're so useless at negotiating, right? So we, the taxpayer, are still paying. The Edinburgh hospital in which my son was born, my youngest son, right? It's still in debt. It's been there for a couple of decades, and yet it hasn't actually come out of paying off the amount of money that was loaned to it, and it's still paying a rental to the owners. It's ridiculous.
Right. Where you're 100% right. So you put a bunch of civil servants in a room, and you put a bunch of canny negotiators in a room. Yeah. Right. And
guess who wins?
So you've got Murdoch on one side. You've got the secretary. You've got the Secretary of State for Pies on the other side.
Yeah.
Right. Who is going to win that? Who is going to win the detailed analysis of the commercial outcome of that negotiation? You don't need to be a rocket scientist.
No, exactly right. Joseph, sorry to have you sit there without being able to interrupt again. But finally,
he did start the debate off.
He did. Finally, tell us a bit about CPAC UK, which is happening next month in July, which they very kindly invited me to appear at.
Absolutely,
you may wish to come along as well. Tell us more about it.
Yeah, we'll do. I mean, just on that point about GDP as well. I mean, we spend 45% of it on the state anyway. So, what little there is, most of it's being spent on those civil servants. And that's one of the reasons why we're doing CPAC, because really, the whole point of CPAC, the Conservative Political Action Conference, which was founded, in the time of Reagan over in the US, the whole point of it is to bring back pro-growth, pro-sovereignty messaging, understanding, what a cohesive conservative movement really looks like. And that's not big C conservatism. That includes reform voters in that tent as well. And the whole point of it really is to discuss how we bring commerce back to this country, how we bring back critical industries, how we bring back the transatlantic relationship, the debate on free speech, the debate on Islamism, all the big debates that we have going on. We're going to bring them into a live setting. So it's 2,500 people, close to the O2 at the Intercontinentals, the 18th of July. So do join us. Some incredible guests already announced. Of course, yourself speaking as well, Mike. And, we're going to have a lot more big names coming out over the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned on our social media. It's going to be a lot of fun. People coming from all over the world to join us.
Great. Brilliant. Good stuff. Thank you very much indeed. That is Joseph Robertson from CPAC UK. Thanks a lot. Who still thinks a reformer in with a chance. I think they definitely are. Very funny tweet I've got here from Jonathan, who says, we're all meant to believe that we, Jimmy Cranky, didn't see the mobile home. We can see it from space. And he's put a satellite picture on, right, where you can actually see the camper van. Here, I'll have a look at that. From space.
In front of your face, please, Mike.
Sorry. There.
Whoa.
There you go. There it is. So, all she had to do was go on Google Maps. She could have found it. Unbelievable stuff.
No, so the question is, why do you... I can understand that she's a hot item now because everybody is looking at her thinking, is she telling the truth or is she telling a whopper? Okay, I get that. So you're 6 months into living, we'll say, probably in a rather nice house in Chiswick, probably costing the thick end of $4,500 a month.
Well, she may be being bankrolled by somebody, you never know.
Yeah, well... so why are you interested in her views anymore? They don't. So for her, she says she wants to go into the literary world.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know. Is she? Can she write or?
I think she can probably write.
Yeah, I don't. But what is it she's going to say where people are going to read it and think, well, I wonder whether that's actually what she really believes, or is this what she's saying?
I think she's going to be one of those people who, as you, I think, are kind of hinting at, will disappear, into nothingness because nobody wants to hear from her. Nobody believes the word she says. She's killed off independence, I think. Andrew Neil said this the other day, probably for a couple of generations. Maybe the UN will give her something.
Had any of this come out, so the Scottish establishment allowed that trial to take place, post the election. Had it been pre the election, they did very poorly anyway. They would have done really
even
disastrously.
Worse, No, I agree.
And so that was a piece of trickery, which the Scottish people should not thank. I'm not saying Sturgeon for. They should not thank Swinney for, and other people like him. So it goes to show that the politicians, even north of the border, surprisingly, will look after their own.
Yeah, I think no question. But the problem for Scotland is that it is now going to be tied to the UK for the foreseeable future, I think. And there's nothing else. There's nothing. So what's the point of the SNP? And I was hearing a conversation between people in Scotland just a couple of weeks ago. They don't really want to have a second referendum now because if they have it and they lose it, they're finished. So the SNP would cease to exist as an entity.
Is that true?
Yeah, because if they've tried
you
twice...
can still believe in something even though it's being rejected.
Yeah, but you can't keep saying that people want it if they keep voting against it.
No.
By the same
No, but surely
principle.
the whole point of politics is to say, we want it and keep offering it. For instance, I'd like to start a party. I'm not going to do this, right? I'm too old and I probably haven't got the intellectual heft anyway. I'd like to start a party on
I disagree. I think you absolutely could stand with any charlatan in Parliament
yeah,
that
I
you
could,
choose.
Yeah.
You know,
no, that's true.
I think you're entirely qualified.
At least
for that.
I'd be standing up and saying, "Look, I've been the former editor of the Sun.
Yeah.
I can tell big whoppers. Don't even worry about that."
Yeah.
So, but I'd like to start a party for the business community, for the small businesses, actually small shop owners, all those kinds of people, and various other things. I'd be putting that proposition, even though I was being rejected, it wouldn't stop me from putting it. So no. I think the SNP will survive.
I get
no matter
that,
what.
but maybe what I mean by that is that they would no longer be the force that they are. They would no longer be in government. They would no longer be leading the charge, as it were, because they would be an irrelevance. Effectively, you could still have people going, "We want independence." I mean, the Greens in Scotland want independence, you know, and they were the beginning of Nicola Sturgeon's downfall because she had to do a coalition government with a bloke called Patrick Harvey, who was the guy that started all the cobblers about, you know, men going to women's prisons because of the trans agenda, you know.
So why weren't the Greens destroyed at the last election then, on the basis of that story
in
alone?
Scotland?
Yeah.
Because they've got proportional representation.
Oh, I see. You get
more of them in, generally speaking.
Yeah, based on the number. Yeah.
I mean, it'd be bloody interesting to see how Reform do in the run-in to the next election, because they've got quite a few members of Parliament now in Scotland, and you know, as it gets closer and closer to a general, you know, again, if there's Reform voters in unions,
the Scots aren't like us, are they? In the sense that they seem strangely adverse to actually wealth creation, right?
Well, it depends on who you
it's a bit like
to,
Wales. I'm always saying this, the world's shortest queue is Welsh entrepreneurs. I mean, why is that? What stops?
I mean, he said, when are you going to insult Wales? Oh, well, I just thought I'd wait for you to do it.
No, but seriously, why is it? I mean, they're intelligent, you know, I presume driven kind of people in the same way as we all are. Why? What stops? What is the barrier to people taking a risk, you know, putting their houses up, going
I suspect it's the Welsh government, because they've had this ridiculously useless Labour-run Welsh government for 20 years, practically.
But do you think the nationalists will do better?
No, they won't, because the problem is their government's too big. And whenever you've got big government, same as the Labour lot, you end up with no entrepreneurs doing anything. They just go to Dubai. They just leave. I mean, even the one guy, Terry, what's his face, who runs Celtic Manor.
He made his money.
But then he went to Canada, Canada. And then he bought Celtic Manor, which would have been a brilliant hotel anywhere else. But he put it in Newport, possibly one of the worst parts of Britain. You know, nothing against people from Newport. But
if there's any Newport residents watching, which I'm sure there will be,
there will be. We've got a lot of fans in Wales.
Why don't you say what is the problem with Newport? I agree with you. Apparently, there are job losses galore there because of the steel affected it badly, doesn't it?
Yeah, the steel and the pits and the whole. You know,
so it's a lovely country. So what is it that stops various parts of the UK actually breaking out and being successful? Because if all we're going to rely on is the City of London producing our only profitability, our country is not going to go anywhere. We want people having a bet, working hard, failing, and then every so often succeeding. And even if you carry on failing, just having a go. And you won't get that by literally going to join a state employer.
Right.
Our country cannot work like that.
No, it can't. Absolutely not. We've got Anne Widdecombe to talk to now, I think. Should we do news or not? Should we hold it?
We're a bit late.
Straight to Anne Widdecombe, because we're running a bit late. Anne, a very good morning to you.
You?
I'm hoping you won't be too put off by my guest, Kelvin McKenzie, here, who's been speaking very well on behalf of the right-wingers of this country and saying that business should be run better. What's happened to Britain, though? Because you'll know, Anne, when you were in Parliament, Britain was a much more successful country in terms of its economy, in terms of its business culture. You know, what's actually happened to it that we seem to be unable to make any money and find any growth in the economy?
Well, I think what's happened is very straightforwardly that successive governments have taxed and taxed again, this one particularly, but not uniquely. As soon as they got in, the first thing they did was raise national insurance for employers. So they haven't made business and employment attractive. They've also been fairly punitive about individual wealth tax. So successful individuals have gone and taken their initiatives and their investment elsewhere. But for little businesses everywhere, which used to be the backbone of Britain, they are being crippled and have been for years. It's nothing new, nothing unique to Labour. They are absolutely crippled by red tape. Now, that is one of the things we used to blame the EU for it. Well, we've left the EU. Therefore, one of the things that we should have done very early on was to get rid of a lot of the red tape. We can't get rid of all of it, but a lot of the red tape for little businesses. We haven't done that.
No, we haven't. And I mean, we've also seen, for example, the latest development, and this will take you back, Keir Starmer boasting about the fact that he's now decided to renationalise a whole load of the railways. And they've renamed them all. They've spent a bucket load of money putting new signage on them, calling them Great British Railways. So now Southern and Thameslink and a whole load of other train services are going to go the way of Great Western. And already, guess what's happened? The RMT, Rail and Maritime Workers Union, has called for all of the various different employees who are now currently employed as independent contractors through local companies to be employed by the railway, which will end up costing a load more money. They're talking about bringing in more trains and bringing in more people. So it's going to be another disaster waiting to happen, isn't it?
Well, it certainly is going to be another disaster, probably already is a disaster. I mean, first of all, the idea that if something is nationalised, it must employ all its own labour, it must bear all its own costs, is itself one of the things that went wrong with earlier nationalisation.
Yes.
And, in this case, you haven't got the usual arguments against nationalisation, which is that it deprives consumers of any choice at all, because the railways tend to run a sort of monopoly anyway. But you have got the argument that it doesn't promote initiative and it doesn't promote cost cutting. I mean, after all, if you're being funded by the government, why worry about your costs?
Well, that's the problem, isn't it? So here's what the RMT is saying. They want basically insourcing of all railway staff following the nationalisation of, amongst others, go via Thameslink Railway. That means that basically security staff, cleaners, gate line staff, maintenance staff, engineering workers, all need to be employed now by the railway company, which will push their prices up massively. I mean, you travel by train more than I do. It's a lottery, isn't it?
It's an absolute nightmare. So South Western Trains was nationalised last year, and that's turned out to be a disaster for the consumer.
Yeah.
Anybody who travels regularly will attest to that.
Yeah. I mean, I've got this from James.
And also a very important point here is that if you're talking about little businesses flourishing and individual enterprises flourishing, if they can't sell their products to the state, if, for example, if you've got cleaning companies which are operating independently, successful little private enterprises, and they can't sell their cleaning services to the state, well, then don't ask me why business can't flourish.
Yeah, exactly right. I've got this from James who says only 28% of the population use a train at least once a month, 14% on a weekly basis. Why are we subsidising their travel? The majority of Brits drive to work or use a vehicle for work, yet they are punished every day with fuel duty, speed limits and taxes, which is right, isn't it?
That is right, but it's also the case that if you've got to go to work on the train, and that would apply to an awful lot of commuters, you can't drive in central London.
Yeah.
If you've got to go to work on train, then you've got to pay the prices that they demand for their tickets, and you've got to put up with whatever scheduling that they produce. So, I mean, I think no matter which way you try to get to work, whether you're going on the train, the bus, the tube's probably the most reliable, or the car, it's just hopeless.
The tube is the most reliable, although apparently there's another tube strike being planned for tomorrow,
Tuesday
I believe.
And Thursday, yeah.
And also, one of the guys from GB News put out, he was trying to get to work yesterday, and he ran the list down of London transport closures yesterday, Sunday, and it was about, as long as your arm, it was about 10 different lines, which were either not working at all or had severe delays, and it's absolutely and utterly ridiculous. How about this from Robert, who says, just to answer Kelvin, the reason why entrepreneurs struggle in Wales is because of the Welsh Government. In England, business gets 80% business rates relief. In Wales, we get 15%. I run a small and medium-sized enterprise in hospitality, and it's bloody hard. Yeah. So there's your answer. Do we get 80% business rates relief, Pooch?
No, none.
Why don't we get any then? He says we get 80% business rates relief in England.
Yeah, well,
maybe we should apply for that.
Our value is too high.
Is it?
Yeah.
Shocking. You know, this is the problem, isn't it? You know, you try and start an enterprise and they come at you, chipping away.
We'll take the next studio as well.
And we got a new studio that we're building, so yeah, it's all happening. It's all kicking off. But Anne, tell us what you make of the Makerfield scenario as well, because we've just had a guy on from CPAC UK who was saying that he still thinks Reform and Labour are pretty much neck and neck. I'm confused a bit by the polls, not quite sure where Restore are, how big the Greens are going to be to hurt Labour. I mean, there's a lot going on.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is undeniable that Reform and Labour are fighting this out between them. But I think Reform is hampered by Restore. I don't expect Restore to get very many votes, but even the few that they do get would otherwise have gone to us. I don't think there's any doubt about that. It's not one of those situations where you can say, oh, well, they might have voted for any party. I think the likelihood is anybody who's going to vote Restore would have voted Reform if Restore wasn't an option. I think Rupert Lowe may have quite a lot to answer for. I think he may have put Labour, he may end up putting Labour back in Makerfield.
And if Burnham wins Makerfield, is he then the next Prime Minister, do you think?
Oh, yes. I mean, not immediately, obviously. The big question, if he wins, will be when. When will the contest be? Now, nothing's ever certain in politics. But if you were going down to the bookies, you would put money on Burnham before you put it on Starmer or Sweeting.
And would you put it on Reform as well if you were going down the bookies?
Oh, I would put money on Reform to win Makerfield, yes, and I would put money on Reform to be the government at the next general election.
Yes, I don't think Burnham helps them there at all. Interesting to know. Good to see you, Anne Widdicombe. Thank you very much indeed. Anne has read every single book on that bookshelf behind her. I'm sure she has. Absolutely right. One of the greatest bookshelves we ever show. Sorry, go on.
Chip in there. Yeah, because these books do arouse a lot of questions. They are parliamentary Hansards.
Yes.
And they contain every single speech that was ever made by anybody in all Parliament during the 23 years I was there.
I was going to ask you how far back does that go? So that would be from what years to what years then?
That would be from 1987 till 2010.
Wow, that's fascinating. And do you sort of find yourself looking at them occasionally?
Occasionally I use them for reference purposes, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Wow.
And,
amazing. And have they kept Hansard in that form? Can you get Hansard now online? I presume you can.
You can get Hansard online, but the last time I asked, and that was a couple of years ago, they still were issued in bound form.
Really? Interesting. Yeah. How fascinating. Anne, thank you very much indeed. Good to see you. Anne Widdicombe, a good old-fashioned proper politician.
Kelvin that I put in. I've got a quotation that I'd like Kelvin to read that I put in.
Oh, OK. Samuel Beckett, can you read that?
Ever tried, ever failed, no matter. Try again, fail better. Samuel Beckett. Yeah, great line that.
I was raised on the Rabbie Burns, was it the Rabbie Burns line?
Well, no,
about
not
Robert the Bruce.
Rabbie C. Nesbitt.
Not Rabbie C. Nesbitt, no, but about Robert the Bruce, because I was obviously born into a Scottish family, and I remember being taken to Bruce's Cave, which is just over the border as you go into Scotland, and you have to take it all sort of left as if you were going to go across to sort of Kirkcudbrightshire that way, and Stranraer. And Bruce's Cave is there where he saw the spider, and supposedly he was inspired to fight the English, even though he kept losing, because the spider kept trying to make a web and failed, and kept trying. He watched this spider for an entire sort of day till he eventually built the web and started catching things in it. And he said, if at first you fail, try and try again. So there you go.
Well, thanks very much.
Yeah.
And,
so you're okay with Samuel
and now
Beckett.
back to the studio.
But you're basically anti-Scottish, you see, even though you are in fact a Scot. Mackenzie is a Scottish name.
Kelvin called me Mackenzie.
You got your own tartan and everything.
Yeah, my grandfather. My grandfather's an enormously clever bloke, right? So he was an architect. We didn't
pass it down.
The apple fell miles from the tree. No, he
rolled down a hill.
Yeah, he rolled down there, killed somebody, and eventually I got charged.
Ended up in a ditch.
No, he was a clever guy. He was a dancer. Okay. Right, dancer. And
like Highland dancer.
Highland dancer. Went with the troupe to America to dance.
Right.
And where they changed his name because his name was Calder. And the American entrepreneur said that's not Scottish enough. And they changed the name to Mackenzie.
Which, funnily enough, is a Scottish name, Calder, isn't it?
It is a Scottish name. And my father not sometime before he died, with his new wife.
Yeah.
Then changed his name back to Mackenzie Calder from Calder
really?
Mackenzie. And
so was it just it was just Calder initially though, not Calder Mackenzie.
He was Ian Calder Mackenzie.
Oh, all right.
And because that wasn't his original name, he then, before he died, about 7 or 8 years before he died, he then changed it back again. And so my grandfather, an enormously clever guy, dentist, architect, property developer, he was just. By the way, wrote his own stuff as well. This was somebody that was slightly different. Eventually, it tumbled down to a bloke who was able to write one-word headlines. that was the full intellectual.
Brevity can be the art of
soul of
wit, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, do you remember a guy called Ian Calder, who was the editor of the National Enquirer?
I do.
Who was a fascinating guy, by the way. When the National Enquirer was still, I think it's still going, but it's very much a shadow of its former self. But they had this guy called Generoso Pope, who was the owner. Who was this slightly eccentric Italian, a bit like Pooch actually, only a bit richer. Well, I think he's a bit richer.
On Friday afternoon,
he was obsessed with finding Shangri-La, right?
Oh,
and it's an English reporter who went to work for him. I can't remember his name now, but he got called in, and it was a bit like being called into the Murdoch empire, you know, the office. And he's a sort of very short guy, this guy, Generoso Pope, sat behind a big desk. He said, "I want you to go and find Shangri-La," and he went, "Okay." He said, "Well, where is it?" He said, "Well, that's for you to find out." So he just sent this guy around the world looking for Shangri-La, and he went all the way around the world. Went to Nepal, went to Tibet, went to all these places. Indonesia, Siberia, the Japanese islands. Came all the way back, couldn't find it, and so Calder said, "We better go and tell the boss because you're not really happy, So he goes in there and he went, "Go round again." So he just sent him out again to go. He just went round the world. And until Generoso Pope, I think, finally passed away, didn't get there.
He was very strong for Elvis, wasn't he? And
he was.
And every Friday afternoon, when work had finished, around about 3 or 4 in the afternoon, all the journalists and all the employees used to get together and have a kind of afternoon drink of some kind. And they were all enjoying themselves. Plenty of that, right? The stuff of which we all know. And he came in and said, "I want you to keep quiet," and which was the most unusual thing to say on Friday afternoons. And they said, "Why?" He said, "Elvis has died."
Yeah,
and after that, they didn't used to hold those Fridays.
I knew the guy that talking. We'll come to Mark Littlewood in a second. There was a guy, I won't name him, photographer, who stole the picture of Elvis in his casket and put it on a load of pillowcases.
No.
And started selling them. And this was before the internet, right? So it was quite an operation to have to do that. And he got discovered, and it all went horribly wrong. But I mean, in those days, that was worth an absolute fortune,
Yeah, that's now to make the papers.
The picture that you saw of Elvis, in his coffin.
But why on earth would anybody think that? I'm amazed that worked commercially. Well,
because people were massive fans of Elvis.
He looked shocking. Yeah. When the Sun stuck it on the front page, the sale collapsed.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Anyway, more of that, tales of the undead, as it were. Mark Littlewood is here, probably just as happy as we are that Arsenal lost the Champions League final. Mark, very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike. Yeah, who knew that so many tens of thousands of people would turn up on the streets of North London to celebrate losing a penalty shootout against the French?
I know. Well, at least they didn't set fire to anything, unlike the French. I mean, I don't know what the French would have done if they'd won. Paris would be in complete, ruin, I imagine. But just because
Hold on a second, shouldn't we ask Mark where he got that shirt from? Isn't that the most interesting aspect of this
last Monday, I also wore a shirt like that because we decided to come in Hawaiian shirts, because it was Bank Holiday Monday. But what's your excuse today, Mark? Is it every Monday?
I don't have one. The missus buys my shirts, so you've got to blame it on her, I'm afraid. Yeah.
I'm not going there. But let's have a look, just because we quite enjoy watching it, and just for Pooch's sake as well. This is the missed penalty from Gabriel.
1 second. What number is it?
I haven't got the number in front of me. Hang on. It is 6.
Can I just point out that these are the greatest players of their generation? Yeah. They are 12 yards from the goal, and 2 of the 5 actually managed to actually miss the goal.
Miss the goal.
So the question is, could we all be professional footballers? And if we can, for instance, be Raheem Sterling, make 325 grand a week, go down to 25 grand a week for Feyenoord, and then claim that the reason that you have just been arrested for carrying a drug, failing to give a specimen and driving while under drugs is due to the fact that you, of the hellish 2 years you had. Hellish 2 years, you're still making 25 grand a week. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. How much do these Arsenal players get paid?
Well, you're talking 250, 300,000 a week, aren't you, for these people?
Yeah.
I mean, ludicrous amounts of money. But he's still in a Lamborghini, old
yeah, the Lambo.
Sterling.
Yeah, bang the Lambo on the M3.
Yeah, it's a nightmare, this.
It's all... And by the way, before 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
I mean, I hesitate to think what state he might have been in, and I feel... But the idea that the PR put out, have you seen the PR everywhere on the sports pages? All the genuflection by the sports writers, it is shocking. And the only reason they're doing it is so that they stay in with the agents and the managers, don't have an independent thought. They carry on peddling this crap, which we as sports nuts are sucking up. It makes me sick. 2 out of 5 missing from 12 yards, and you're getting paid, what, 100 grand a week? Please, give us a break. Even peers, give us a break.
Yeah, but Kelvin, you're being a little unfair here, right?
No.
Because, look, I reckon, probably speaking, you, Mike, and myself could hit the ball on target from 12 yards.
We could.
But you've got to beat a world-class goalkeeper. So unless you're kicking it at speed to the corner of the goal, it's going to get saved, right? That would be their excuse. In fact, the first Arsenal miss by Eze was far, far worse. I mean, at least Gabriel, ran up to the ball and levered it. Eze was jumping around and stopping his run up and then kicked it wide to the left-hand side.
Did you notice, Mark, that they all had some kind of weird run-up, and they all seemed to do that jump to the left thing, where they do the little, like that with their feet, and then they suddenly jump to the left as if they're coming at it for... They're all doing it, so somebody must be telling them that that's the way you take a penalty.
Yeah, the concept is, it obviously didn't work in Arsenal's case, is that if the goalkeeper's expecting you to take a quick run-up and you take a slow run-up, the goalkeeper might indicate which way he's diving, or even dive. Actually, for one of the penalties that Paris scored, Raya dived so early that I think Kelvin or myself could have scored the penalty. It was basically an open net to put it into. But you know what? I'm a bit worried that we're all sort of chuckling so much about this because you just kind of know it's going to happen to England in a few weeks' time, right?
More than likely. But also the reason, and before anybody, and I've got plenty of friends who are Arsenal fans, it's not like we're against Arsenal in particular, because people have said, you should be supporting any English team in Europe. Well, no, that's not really how football works, first of all. And second of all, the reason we hate Arsenal is because of Keir Starmer, because he makes such a thing about being an Arsenal fan, and he'd also decided not to go. He made a conscious decision not to go to Budapest because he thought he was a bad omen, which of course he is. Because he stopped going and they started winning again. But now they've lost even when he wasn't there. So
He was also arguing for yet another extension of the welfare state, Mike. Did you see this? That it should be free to air on television.
Free to air, yeah. What's it got to do with him?
Yeah, I mean, this is probably for that sports channel their biggest football match on television this year.
Oh, yeah, it is by a mile.
You can't possibly charge £4.99 for people.
Even though you've paid about 200 million quid for it, Presumably as well, he will be watching it at home in Downing Street on a TV paid for by us, on a subscription paid for by us, which he will put in every month. Thanks very much indeed, Keir. So he gets it free, so I don't know what he's worried about. But I just want to point out, Pooch hasn't seen it, have you? No, I haven't. So you need to have a look at it. Have a look at the final penalty shootout miss by Arsenal. Well, do you remember those memes that you got from David Beckham's missed penalty? I was actually in America at the time and I didn't see it, but people were ringing me up to say, have you seen this penalty miss? And they were sending it up into space. The ball was continuing to go around Mars because he missed by such a massive margin. And I guess people will say, and I know that those who are not interested in football will be annoyed by this conversation, but the ball is very light now compared to the way it was. It may surprise you to know this, Calvin, but I've actually played at the old Wembley in a tournament which the Daily Express team won. incredibly, when Littlewoods, funnily enough, used to sponsor the FA Cup. And we beat the Sun in the final, who turned up with a load of kids who mostly were on the messenger department, who were all sort of trying out for places like Charlton and Millwall, but we actually managed to beat them. And Robert Jobson, in fact, was the key player who scored the winning goal.
He
scored the winning goal.
Blocked out the light.
No, he was in those days. He was quite the athlete, and his dad used to own Southend United.
He did.
He was a very, very good footballer. But you know, you're going to do some football for us. The World Cup is looming, the 11th of June, and Mark has got a great plan. So you can tell us, I mean, don't give too much away, but tell us a bit about what you're going to be doing.
Yeah, so look, you know, I know like the World Cup splits the nation because, you know, probably half the population get into it, half the population don't. But this is going to be the biggest sporting event in world history in terms of the amount of money around it. It's more teams than ever competing in the World Cup. It's 48 teams this time round, from, you know, all the way from France and Spain down to the Cape Verde Islands and Curacao. Is that how you pronounce it? I thought that was a type of alcoholic drink, but
that's what I thought.
It was actually a football team. Population
and
of
also,
150,000.
are they being managed by Dick Advocaat? Because a friend of mine in Scotland said that he was intrigued by the mixture of Advocaat and Curacao. Wasn't sure if it was a drink or a football team.
Yeah, well, quite. Well, we'll have, well, their first match is against Germany, right? So, look, what I hope is we get lots of upsets, basically, because there's so many minnows in it, and usually a great World Cups where we get lots of upsets. But with 48 different teams from around the world, I'm hoping to do a little bit of coverage for you, Mike, on kind of introducing people to the tournament, even if they're not football kind of crazy about what these teams are, what the countries are like, who you should be supporting other than England and Scotland, or maybe some England fans will be hoping Scotland go out and vice versa. But yeah, it's going to be amazing. It's a $15 billion tournament in terms of the turnover, but $150 billion is likely to be gambled on it, also making it the biggest gambling event ever in history. And it starts on Thursday. Because it's all US times, of course, you're going to have to stay up late at night. Doesn't trouble me. I'm a night owl. First game's on Thursday night. That's
well,
Thursday
as long as you're
week.
still awake at 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning our time when we
Good morning.
Well, that won't be a problem, Mike. The second game kicks off at 4 a.m. I think UK time, or 3 a.m. UK time.
Yeah, good.
So yeah, it'd be right.
And he's got a great method as well, Mark, which is basically to not go to the venues at all, but to go to a nice hot country where they've got quite cheap beer and sports bars everywhere. So he watches it all from there. Well, it'll be somewhere in the Mediterranean. I don't want to give away the location. Yeah. I've got, by the way, you might want to see this. This is The National, which is one of the world's worst newspapers ever, created in Scotland, for Scotland, right? They've got such a slow circulation that they'd be better off literally delivering it by hand to people, right? This is their front page today, which is the Scottish team going up going to the World Cup, right? World Cup, here we come. I suggest that they do one of them turned the other way, walking back up, because they'll be just walking back into the plane.
Do what they did to the Queen. Do you remember that? Getting them walking back again.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Yeah, I'm expecting Haiti to do us all a favour and kick them straight out. That'd be great.
Well, Kelvin, that's interesting because because so many teams get through the group stage, Scotland might make it through the group stage. Probably if they beat Haiti pretty comfortably, they might make it through just on that one win. That's their first match, and that's very late Sunday night, Monday morning. So I think it's a public holiday in Scotland because they realise no Scots would turn up to work if they're watching Scotland play at 2 a.m.
Is it a public holiday?
I think it is a public holiday the next day, just in Scotland, because the match kicks off at 2 a.m. on Monday morning.
No.
If Scotland win that one, they'll probably make it through, even though they're likely to get tonked by Brazil and will probably lose to Morocco. But if they can just win that one, 3 or 4-0, that will probably be enough to get them through to the second round, something they have never achieved before.
Okay, I'd like him to do it, actually.
I would, actually, being and also with your Scottish heritage. And also the thing is, of course, I'm surprised they haven't taken 2 public holiday days, because that's what they do at New Year. You get off New Year's Day and the day after, just in case you've got completely bladdered on New Year's Eve. But there we are. Anyway, listen, Mark, great to see you. I mean, we didn't really get around to talking about any important economic statistics, but what's your bet? I'll leave you with this one thought. What's your bet on the Makerfield situation? Who's winning it, do you think?
Well, I've put money on Reform because the odds are attractive. So because Burnham's odds on and Reform are 3-1 against there or thereabouts, and I think it's a coin flip. That 3-1 on Reform is a pretty attractive bet. I'm not saying they're nailed on, but you can quadruple your money by June the 18th. And it seems to me it's 50-50, could go either way. You had Joseph Robertson on earlier, right? What it could come down to is what they call GOTV, get out the vote. So are Reform going to be able to put enough bodies on the ground to make sure that anyone who's leaning to Reform gets out and votes? And I suspect Reform voters are more likely to be energised, possibly even willing to crawl over broken glass to go and vote against Labour. Whereas the Labour supporters, even if they're saying to a poll, probably vote Labour, might be a bit harder to get off their sofa and into a polling station. So I wouldn't want to call it either way, but 3-1 against on Reform, I think, is a pretty sexy bet.
Yeah, interesting. Good stuff. Mark, good to see you. We'll talk to you very soon. Mark Littlewood there with his thoughts on the football and the World Cup, and lots of stuff coming up from him as of the 11th of June, which is when the World Cup starts, apparently. And don't worry, we'll make it fascinating and interesting. It won't just be the same usual boring old sports talk. It'll be, what's cool about what's going on and what's grabbing the zeitgeist. How about this from Keir Starmer, who's just tweeted his first tweet of the week? The Tories waged an ideological war on the idea of social housing, leaving many families stranded without support. This Labour government is ending that, so everyone, no matter their background or circumstance, can have a secure place of their own. Isn't that nice? So he's going to start giving out cheap housing.
Well, I would say about
people.
that, one of the great unfairnesses of life is that people who are quite able to pay for their rents get in on the state housing system, and two things happen. They pay probably somewhere north of 20%, but certainly south of 30% of what the private renter has to pay. And their circumstances do change and can change. And yet the rents as a percentage...
They keep it for life, don't they?
They keep it for life. And so why aren't they paying? They should pay. It's not... The councils spend all their time telling us how poor they are. Why don't they adjust the rents up or down depending on what their circumstances are, right? Secondly, and secondly, making sure, especially in London, that people aren't disappearing for literally the summer and beyond to Portugal, Spain and everywhere, and renting out that same council flat at the price that the private renters are paying and trousering the difference. So they're paying $300 a month for their flat, 2 or 3 bedroom, which is incredible in Islington, and renting it out for $2,000 a month and trousering, because it's an all cash deal, 1,700 quid, therefore they can go and live around the world.
It's getting worse than that, because they're also Airbnb-ing them. Because I know this, because a couple of friends of mine have since come to London who don't live here anymore, and they've looked around because I've said, well, I sort of live and work around the sort of London Bridge area, around Bermondsey, for example, an area you know well, right? There's a lot of council estates there. 2 of my friends came and rented Airbnb. I think it was 300 quid a night, right?
No.
300 quid a night for, say, a 3-bedroom flat. Because you come with 3 people and they each pay 100 quid a night, still cheaper than a hotel.
Oh yeah, miles cheaper.
But imagine the money you're making, right? If you're Airbnb-ing out your council flat, right, for 300 a night, so you could be making in excess of 1,500 to 2,000 a week. You could be making sort of 7,000 a month, and you could be living somewhere else, even in another country, right? But you never lose your council flat.
Correct, and so you end up in the bizarre position of nobody on the council estate, for instance, shopping you to the council, and because they'd like to be in that position. And secondly, actually, the council itself saying, oh, we're too busy, we can't be asked to get involved in it.
There's too much of it going on.
Yeah, it's too much of it going on, and we don't want to look as though we're pursuing, hard-pressed poor council house tenants or social housing.
No, of course not.
Social housing.
No, it's an absolute racket.
We do not want... By all means, people are entitled to a home. Yeah, they have to pay in line with what they can afford, not with what a council, because it's a Labour council and they want that vote to come back to them, what we think we should charge them in order to guarantee they stay part of the client state. It's absolutely disgraceful.
Absolutely shocking. Totally shocking. Speaking of which, let us find out again how much money the councils are either wasting or not wasting on potholes, because Mr. Pothole is here after a bit of an absence. Mark, a very good morning to you, sir. Welcome back.
Morning, Mike.
How are you doing, sir?
Not too bad. Still waiting for my heart procedure because my blood tests are not right, but that's
you're still waiting for it? Blimey. Crikey. Well, listen, Surrey County Council's on your radar this morning. Tell us about what they've been up to.
Well, yeah, Mike, last time I was on, Kelvin mentioned about Surrey and some questions about how much precept went there. So me being me, I did a FOI. They don't use any of the precept according to them. They use government funding and borrowing to carry out their road maintenance. But interesting, I sent in some details of what their road maintenance backlog is. Their total road maintenance backlog is £1.5 billion.
Yeah, I do.
Wow. And so will that ever be recovered? It won't, will it? If it's that big of a number?
Not if we carry on the same way. I mean, that's why I've launched my website, the Pothole Truth, today. Now, I'm getting tremendous support. I'm getting it's the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, Mike.
Yeah, exactly.
And the thing is that I'm getting tremendous support from people that are just come out of the industry, retired, that are willing to go on record a bit more. People doing articles for me. And one of the fabulous things, I'm collaborating with Derek Bennett, the guy who actually took Hertfordshire Council to court under Section 56 of the Highways Act. And now on my website, you can download a guide, templates of letters, templates of forms, a flowchart, so you can make your council or highways authority legally responsible for repairing roads. I mean, it's time to fight back, and I think it's a platform to do so. And for 13 years, I've tried all of the usual thing of campaigning and petitioning. Now I thought, well, the gloves are off, and I might as well have a good go. I mean, one interesting fact, if you look on the camera now, this is my work for the week. That's a document that came out that's only got 15 working days to answer. That's a significant document in terms of infrastructure investment and codes of practice. Why only 15 days for something that's so crucial? It's because they don't want the response. They're going to get it whether they like it or not. I mean, if I have to burn the midnight hour, it's a shame it wasn't during the World Cup. I could stay out all night and read it.
Exactly right. But they've called for the consultation to end before that, unfortunately. But so, I mean, we kept hearing at the election in 2024 that Labour were going to concentrate on fixing potholes and fixing the infrastructure. But instead now it looks as though they're going to spend all that money renationalising the train system.
Well, it's funny you should say that. I did an FOI to Department of Transport asking about the road maintenance backlog and if they got any plans to clear that backlog, whether they recognise the Asphalt Industries Alliance figure that comes out annually, and if not, what their figure was. Their response was they're not going to reply because it would cost more than £600 to do so 24 hours of work. If they don't know those figures off the top of their head, who the hell is running the Department of Transport in terms of roads? Equally, if you go onto LinkedIn and have a look at the Department of Transport's wonderful profile, it's trains, EVs, charging points, a bit of aviation, some silly jokey things with the Secretary of State that I think is a complete clown. Nothing about roads and local roads and potholes.
Well, you see that former Transport Secretary, Lou Haig, the woman who kept getting her phone stolen and then, fun enough, reporting it on the phone that she said was stolen. She's apparently going to be Andy Burnham's Chancellor if he becomes the Prime Minister.
I read that. Do you know what? The quality of the people running our nation has synced, and I'm so pleased Mr. Pothole has now nailed the lady who is the Secretary of State for
Heidi
Transport.
Alexander,
Oh my God. Honestly, did you read what she said about nationalisation? She said, I want to be sure that passengers, when waiting on a platform, are certain that the train will arrive. Really? Well done. Anyway, so what happened?
Brilliant.
Right? What happened?
You got some bad news
I
for
turn up there, right? The train does not arrive, right? The train then doesn't arrive, and I eventually miss appearing on GB News. Fantastic. Well done.
Yeah, I know.
She's saying...
And you're only half an hour away, right?
Yeah, I'm half an hour away. We're not in control of it. But the other point I would make is we don't seem to have any money. So unless we have wealth creation through the asphalt industry or any other industry, we are going to be in this position. We are literally, those holes in the ground will be the size of HS2. And I admire you for the fact that you're going to put in your time when actually you are waiting for what sounds like a pretty serious hospital procedure, and are prepared to act on behalf of us. The fact that there are people like you out there prepared to do the kind of work which many of us, including me, are not prepared to do, are the only saving grace of this country right now. So congratulations to you, man.
No, thanks. I mean, someone's got to make it. I mean, I'm a bit like Frank Sinatra. I've retired a couple of times through issues, but it's been the demand to come back. And people like Mike, to be honest, have given me a platform over the years.
Yeah.
And I think I've stuck around because I'm quite credible. I'm probably their worst nightmare. Several media outlets have tried to get the Secretary of State for Transport in the past, not the current one plus previous ones, or a roads minister to have a debate with me. They won't come near me. I'm toxic. No. I think perhaps I know what I'm talking about.
Well, the problem Mark, one of the problems is that the reason they don't want to talk to you is that you have something at your disposal known as facts, which they don't have at all. And they prefer to talk in sort of circles and hyperbole. They don't like facts because facts expose them for the fact that they're doing nothing.
Exactly, that's why it's the pothole truth is the website, and it's not going away. I mean, I've had to take out high level of security to protect the website, also insurances and stuff, because I know I'm going to be attacked, Mike. I had it before when I had a previous website with HS2. I know that they're going to be trying to do something. They tried to stifle me on social media, as you know. So I thought, no, I'm not having this. Let's do my own website. Let's play the game here. I will be putting up in the coming months a complete economic model and a strategy to fix pothole Britain. And one of the big things that I've done a market test with all of the followers and general public is they want a road tax. They want vehicle excise duty not going into the central pot. They want it to maintain roads. Now, if we do that, it's up to government where they find the money from. Scrap HS2. They've actually secretly been starting works on the Lower Thames crossing when it hasn't got the final sign-off in terms of the business case. I mean, these things can be done. In the meantime, our road network is failing. I mean, a report this weekend of another cyclist in Wiltshire, an air ambulance having to be called out to them. I mean, it's untenable. Someone's got to stand up for it. And, I am hemorrhoids. I'm a pain in the backside and I'm not going away. There's no cream for me, Mike.
No, exactly. There's no cure for it. But you just keep going. And, eventually, the good thing is I think anyway, as more and more of these councils get taken over, perhaps by reform, they end up actually doing what they're supposed to do when it comes to road maintenance.
There is some interesting things. I mean, they're trying to do some good work in Nottingham, and I did sort of offer some help, but I think there's too many egos in reform. They really don't want Mr. Potter with there. I think it might just be water, And it's great that Essex. I mean, I can't remember the guy comes on you quite regularly. He's very interesting, who's a councillor in Essex. They've declared an emergency, and they've declared.
Is it Russell Quirk you're thinking of?
That's it. Yeah, Russell Quirk.
Yeah.
And they've actually put in an emergency £7.5 million into potholes and road maintenance because they recognise it. Prior to them, they were a green-rated authority under the Department of Transport's wonderful traffic light system, yet the supporters that I've got in that area weren't happy with that. Now they've gone in and seen exactly what it is, and fair play to them for doing so. I mean, there's lots that they can do in terms of improving things, but the big thing is central government funding. And again, as I said, it needs a proper road tax. The day of all this money going to the Treasury and the bean counters, well, the bean counters need to be told what we want to spend the money on rather than telling the Prime Minister. I mean, hopefully, when we get a change of government, whoever that may be, they would use my blueprint, because if they don't, they'll just be playing semantics at it. And then I'm going to have a real good go. I might even get a tank out again.
Okay, can I have one final question to you, Mark? You said that your website is being attacked, right? And that you've had to pay out, I suspect, quite a lot of money to protect the site. And you said it was attacked before. Who on earth would be attacking your site in a way to destabilise you and your ideas?
The last time it, Kelvin, it supposedly come from China.
Right.
Now, that was when I was getting a big following, condemning HS2 and pointing out what we could do for not only our roads, our hospitals that are falling down, our schools that are falling down, and spending on infrastructure. It's like, to me, HS2 is like putting an extension on a house that's got subsidence. You wouldn't do it in a normal world. I mean, it's true proven. I did the campaigning when I was on the town council, an independent councillor in Brackley, and I did the campaigning at the House of Commons and House of Lords. And they were told at that time by some very good people that were campaigning that it would cost over £100 billion and the timescales it would actually take and the near impossibility it was to get into Euston on the funds that they were talking about. It was poo-pooed. They didn't listen to it, and it's proven to be true. Listen to the people, because the people have got a lot of the answers to these issues. Government and ministers, I'm afraid, they're in charge of things. They've got no idea, no concept. And some of their advisors I see, particularly on some of the television shows, even GB News, I think, well, if you're the quality of the advisor, no wonder we're in the shit state we are. Excuse me.
In fact, I think that's a very good point on which to end. Mark Morell, aka Mr. Pothole, and your website, of course, is the Pothole Truth. Yeah, sorry. So just go and find it, and you'll find all sorts of really good information on there. Mark, thanks very much indeed. He's done this job for such a long time, and the fact remains that you'll find, I bet you any money, Kelvin, if you look into, say, any local council at random, that an awful lot of their transport budget will be eaten up by, DEI hires and bloody, environmental officers and green campaigners and all the rest of it, because they can't do anything without that. The amount of waste in every local council because of all of those things that you literally don't need is prodigious, isn't it?
It appears to be, with 25% of your council tax going in pension payments.
Yes.
For jobs which my bet, by the way, going to be seriously affected by AI, since they're all screen-based jobs. All screen-based jobs are going to be affected by AI, one way or the other. I was at an optician's yesterday in the high street, and he was saying that in the US right now, you sit and you have your eyes tested and all various.
I'm not keen on that, by the way, but
no, and that's part of it.
Yeah,
right. He says in the US, the AI can do all this without anybody having to sit there, and it spews out the result.
Okay.
And he says,
how do they make sure that your eyes are in the right spot, though, for that?
Well, I presume it's
a robot, effectively.
Well, he says actually that they're using this. I mean, after all, you use it sometimes for security purposes.
Yeah.
Anyway, his bet was that the world of a detachment of kind of retail and treatment, i.e. Moorfield, he said that moment's coming. And it's going to end up with high streets being both.
Yeah.
He said, because an old-fashioned optician on their own, sitting there asking this, that, and the other, he said, machines can do that, and they're likely to be more accurate.
Yeah.
And therefore, what does that look like? Honestly, there are big changes heading our way. I have no idea how a country like the UK is going to survive commercially, because we're not doing very well at the moment.
No, but then again, if a production, say for example, or industrial style production of goods is something that we've moved away from, isn't that likely to be the place where AI is going to come in as well? So like remember when they robotised the car business? And suddenly, rather than having British Leyland with, a load of hairy-arsed union members.
Red
Robbo went on strike every 5 minutes. They suddenly got some machines. And because they wanted to do a deal with the unions, they kept a few of the people. But you can have a completely automated factory now.
Yeah.
Don't need people, right?
Well, this is the other thing about all the data investment. There are two views of that, right? One, good. The other one is that actually it doesn't employ anybody at all except to build them. And actually, all that happens is we're going to employ a load of security people just to make sure nobody firebombs it. And actually, the amount of net employment for the country, absolutely zilch.
Yeah.
However, for America, a lot. Okay, they get all the benefit from it through AI and the rest of it. No, we are facing some significant issues which don't look as though they're likely to get better. And that is why, unfortunately, there are two views of this. One would be my view, that we need to be more commercially sensitive and we need to make mistakes and go bust and all the rest of it. Or you could take the left-wing view, which is, I'm very sorry for you. here's the money. Oh, you've got this.
And just keep borrowing it.
You've got that, and keep borrowing.
Just keep borrowing more money to give away.
So,
and go,
so we are coming to a because my suspicion is once we go down the route further left, which always sounds attractive, i.e. it's not going to cost you anything, but see that family over there, it's going to cost them something, right? Then once that's done, at the next turn of the card, I think we are then basically quite a left-wing country that stays that way forever.
Worrying that, isn't it? Very worrying.
So without stations like this, without entrepreneurs like Mike and Pooch setting out, then you wouldn't have an outlet for your feelings that you are being taxed to fund other people's idleness.
Well, also, we were talking the other day I was talking to a friend of mine who's put lots of his kids, 7 kids, I think, through private school. And he said,
Lord.
I know, and a rather expensive one as well. And he said, Kelvin knows him. I'm not outing who he is, though. I'm trying not to out him,
Okay, well, let's pretend his name's Arthur.
Right, let's pretend his name's Arthur. And he put a load of kids through very expensive private school. And he said, I realised once, he woke up one morning and he thought, I haven't just put 7 kids through private school. I've probably put about 7,000 kids with all the tax that he's paid in his time as an entrepreneur and as a businessman. And you can't lose people like that. But that's what we're doing. And so I can't see... I don't disagree with what you're saying about what's going to happen to the economy, but I don't see how it's sustainable. You can't just keep borrowing money because after a while people will stop lending it to you. I mean, we all know that. If you keep going back to the bank and saying, well, that 10 grand you lent me, well, I can't pay it back anymore. We're going to give me another 10. Eventually they go,
that's
sorry,
why I
we can't.
agree with. The only thing I agreed with Mark Carney was he had quite a good expression. He said, we're relying on the kindness of strangers.
Yeah.
Right? And actually, strangers are not there to be kind.
No.
They are there to get a return on their money. And I think we're now at 5%, aren't we? Around 5.25%. Actually, if that moved up, nothing happens in our country at all.
No.
Right? Once we get to things like
just become
6%,
a failed state.
7%, honestly, we would have to be going cap in hand. So where Farage turns out to be, so he is an enormously clever guy, right? He forecast that we would go to the country early. He said an economic crisis would force us to the country.
I said the same, by the way.
Pardon?
I said the same.
Well, there is a difference between you and Nigel Farage.
There's quite a lot of differences.
I just said he was a very clever guy.
That's right. That's one of them.
So, but seriously, if that turned out to be the case, that we were forced to go cap in hand
I think we will.
to the IMF, or secondly had to go to the government, Burnham is never ever going to the government to the country, and the reason he's not going is, hey, I'm here. I've got 3 years of this. At least I'm 3 years of Prime Minister. I don't care if I drive the country into the ground. I'm bugger all squared, and actually I become somebody. I started off in politics at the bottom of the pile. I've ended up at the top. To you lot, right?
Indeed.
He is not going to say, because when you give the government, when you go to the country and you say, tell me, what are you thinking? I remember Ted Heath saying, it's me or the miners.
Who governs us? Who governs us?
We'll take the miners. Right?
Yeah, but you see, your explanation is all very well up to a point, and the reason that politicians do things that you don't expect them to do is because they are run entirely by vanity, right? And the vanity project of Andy Burnham would not be just that he gets to be Prime Minister by default. He would want to be able to say, yeah, but I had an election and I won it straight out there, fair and square, because that would be an even bigger legacy, and he will be hoodwinked into that by those in Downing Street who want to suck up to him and tell him how brilliant he is. Look at the state of Starmer. Starmer came in thinking he was God's gift to politics, right? Look at him now, crawling about on his hands and knees, looking for somebody to talk to, because nobody wants to talk to him, trying to take the knives out of his back. He's a busted flush. He's finished, right?
That was a party political broadcast on behalf of Sir Keir Starmer. Thank you. I'll be back in a minute.
Yeah, back in a minute.
I've got to go in a minute, guys.
Have you got to go? All right.
Yep.
Well, thank you. Can you stop bringing me in these pies, by the way? Because I'm trying to lose
a great pie, that one today. Show the bit. Look at the size of this pie.
It's a magnificent looking pan o raisin, we call these in London, right?
Pan o magnifique.
But it's pan o bloody cholesterol, as far as I know. And I'm supposed to go to the gym later, so I may put it in the fridge and have it tonight, for dessert. All right. But anyway, listen, great to see you, Kelvin. Thank you very much indeed. We've got Marilyn Hawes coming up in a minute. And also, of course, we'll be going live to Makerfield to get an update from our man on the stump to find out what people are actually saying in that part of the world. Callum Smiles is reporting in for us. First, though, shall we get some news with Edward Hughes?
Good morning, all. I'm Edward Hughes. Britain's waking up after a scorching bank holiday where we hit record 35 degrees Celsius heat. And naturally, 5 people drowned in open water because nothing says fun in the sun like ignoring every safety warning ever. Brilliant work, everyone. Meanwhile, the BMA's declared a genuine crisis in medicine and is striking again in mid-June because the NHS waiting lists weren't quite long enough yet. Energy bills are set to climb another £221 a year for the average household. Because what's a summer without shivering in July, wondering how you'll afford the kettle? Politically, Reform UK's nipping at Labour's heels in the polls, while Keir Starmer's crew plays musical chairs with leadership ambitions. Same circus, different clowns. And in breaking news, the weather's been so nice that even the usual miserable headlines feel slightly less soul-crushing. That's your news. Laters Tigers. Laters.
Thank you very much indeed, Edward Hughes there. As I say, we're in talks at the moment with a whole variety of different newsreaders, some of whom are regionally based, which I think would give our show a little bit more kind of, flavour. Diversity is a good thing. Did you see, by the way, that, was it Sky that was reporting, or the Telegraph? A piece of the Telegraph all about Arsenal's celebratory parade yesterday, which was apparently, depending on who you talk to, attended by everybody in London. But it wasn't, obviously. But some were saying about 1 million people were there. I don't know if you can never tell with these things, can you? But anyway, apparently the Telegraph sports reporter was marvelling at how diverse it all was and how marvellous it was for all of its diversity, for Arsenal to have so many diversity-inspired fans. I mean, who cares? What difference does it make? You might as well say, isn't it great that, Arsenal lost the Premier League, won the Premier League but lost the Champions League, but isn't it great that they've got some great diversity players? They're footballers. You just call them footballers. As simple as that. You don't need to say who they are, where they come from. Some of them are Brazilian, some of them are Spanish, some of them are, African, some of them are English. Declan Rice. Senegal, probably not as diverse. No. And Jamaica, funnily enough, when they play in the World Cup, they're not very diverse. In fact, neither are Sierra Leone or the Ivory Coast, Nigeria. No, funnily enough, Mexico. They're all Mexicans.
Yeah, Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Saudi Arabia, full of Arabs.
Yeah, full of Arabs. I'm going to tell you about an Arab dog, actually, at some point soon. But no, Ziggy became an uncle over the weekend. I'll tell you more about it tomorrow. We'll tease you out a little bit with that. But he's got a nephew, which is cool, very cool. He's very excited about it. Got so excited. In fact, he ran after something. I took him out because he had his injections on Friday at the vets, or Saturday morning, sorry, which means he can move a bit better. And no doubt there'll be people complaining. Well, what is he getting injections for? But he actually ran into the bush. When I took him out for his walk on Sunday morning, because he saw something, I don't know what it was, it might have been a fox. But he actually took off, and I was like, wow, great. But he was very excited, because it was also a bit cooler. And he spent a lot of the last couple of weeks panting and having to be washed down with hose. He was a lot happier this weekend. But anyway, that's enough about him. So many congratulations to Ziggy for being an uncle, is what I'm going to say. We'll tell you all about that tomorrow. Right now, though, I think we should talk to Marilyn Hawes. But first, a super chat. Should we do a couple of super chats? They've been coming in thick and fast. A pinch and a bunch on the first of the month. White rabbits, no return, says Jane. I never used to understand that phrase, it's a pinch and a punch, isn't it? Yeah, not a pinch and a bunch. Murrell used a Men in Black pen on Sturgeon, bought with SNP funds, and he had the Knight Rider invisibility cloak on the van, not seen from space, says Red Rock. Yeah, that pen they have on, where you forget what you've seen. Hi, Mike, can we have the lovely Sarah Poaching on soon, says Polly. Yeah, well, she's normally on every couple of weeks, and I think she was on last week, so I'm sure she'll be on this week coming. We'll certainly be having loads and loads of guests around about the whole Makerfield by-election. We're going to go up there in a moment as well to get an update from our man on the spot. But first, Marilyn Hawes is here. Marilyn, very good morning to you.
Morning, here I am. Look, phone intact.
Well done, you. Excellent. Now, I've got to ask you about that necklace, because obviously Nicola Sturgeon starts weeping every time you talk to her about necklaces. Because, I didn't
from a charity shop. I'm not.
Right. Are you sure it's not been bought from
other jewels that made me burst into tears, because I now know they were bought out with somebody else's funds,
Yes, I mean, yeah. I mean, it is so ridiculous. I don't know if you saw the interview she gave yesterday to Laura Kunsberg. But I mean, as we say in Scotland, does she think my head zips up the back? Because Why would you believe a single word? She didn't see. You can see the motorhome from space. We're being told she couldn't see it from the street.
At the point where she said, "My mother-in-law, blah blah blah," and I had this van there that like is the size of goodness knows what. I assumed it was the neighbours. I mean, this is Pooch again. Look, stop it!
What's going on with you? He's doing it again, Pooch. He's just playing with the zoomer. I know. Shocking.
I can also say I'm also a pain in the arse, like the pothole guy. I'm not going away.
That's
Pooch,
good.
so
Well,
I'm
we
gonna
need
get
more
rid of-
people. We need more people like you and Mr. Pothole. But let's have a look at this, right? You'll enjoy this one. This is Ian Blackford, right? Number 4, talking about the missing funds problem. This is when he was still an MP, which he's not anymore. Check this out.
What a look this is to the people that are watching this debate. I'll give way one more time before I make progress.
He's incredibly kind in giving way, particularly on this subject. I just wondered if you might take the opportunity to update us on the missing donations and the fraud investigation into the First Minister's husband, your party's chief executive.
Order. Don't shout at the right honourable gentleman. We all have to hear his answer, and while I'm on my feet, I'd be grateful if the honourable gentleman who's just intervened would in future use the word he, not you, when he's referring to the party opposite him. Mr. Blackford.
Madam Deputy Speaker, let me respectfully say to members opposite that all monies that are raised by the Scottish National Party for the purposes of fighting an independence campaign, I will give you a guarantee, I will give you a promise, I will give you a commitment right here and now, that every penny which is raised will be spent on independence campaigning, because that's what we're about. And there's a big difference. There's a big difference to those that fund the SNP and fund the independence campaign. Because I'll give you another promise. Not one single member of the SNP that gives to us willingly will end up in the House of Commons. What they will be doing...
It's funny, isn't it, how in Scotland they use different words, so promise, guarantee, absolutely cocksure that every penny's going to go to independence. Well, that was not true.
Well, a bit like down here, isn't it, with Starmer? I mean, what a load of lies he tells. And,
I know.
The thing about, I mean, Nicola Sturgeon, she's supposed to be a Scot, and all the Scots I know in my life are extremely strong and very resilient. And to see her a blubbering wreck going, I really nearly fell off the cliff, I'm so like, there's a bit of jewellery, you stupid woman, how you cannot see. I mean, I've got my eyes everywhere. If I saw the guy in my life wearing 4 different types of watches and suddenly I was asked straight away because I'm nosy. How do you afford that?
Well, he also managed to buy 108 loo rolls when she was telling everyone not to panic buy. And then where did he put those? I mean, I dread to think, but I mean... You suddenly go, what are you going to do with all that?
Well, maybe he had a gut problem,
Well, somebody suggested he might have put it in the mobile home, but that's another story.
Well, it's big enough. It's probably 2-story mobile home.
Yeah. I think he had 3 toilets in it. Anyway, listen, let's talk about Makerfield, because you've got a bone to pick with Andy Burnham, and we're going to be going up there shortly to find out what the latest polls are saying. But you're not happy about his Andy Burnham's attitude to the grooming gangs, are you?
Well, not at all. I mean, he was nowhere to be seen. And believe me, he knew. He absolutely knew, and he turned away from it. He did nothing. And he was obviously, because he would have been very, cozying up to the chief constable and the police crime commissioner, who aren't worth, a penny of anyone's tax money, because they've gone now, haven't they? But he absolutely knew. And also, I mean, the arrogance of the man, truly, he is almost assuming, I really do hope that he falls on his face. He's assuming that he's going to get into, win this, and he's going to be prime minister. Assumption makes an arse out of us.
It does.
He's so smug that he is going to be voted in. I so hope he falls flat on his face with a bloody nose. I really do, because he deserves it. And in fact, careful what you wish for, because I think it could be worse than Starmer if that's possible.
Oh, I'm sure he would be worse. I'm sure he would be worse. But also, he would, he'd be like every politician. He wants to be the top dog, right? But once they get the job, look at Starmer. He's a husk, for shadow of his former self. Absolutely ridiculous man. Has made himself the laughing stock of the country, if not the world, right? And he will hate that.
Yet again, Mike, if we get away from Burnham, who I just think, I really do hope he falls on his face. He deserves it. He definitely deserves to take a bloody nose and more. He deserves it. And then where's he going to be? He's not going to be the mayor. He's not going to be this. But they are all obsessed with power. I mean, Starmer is nothing short of a tin dictator. He's absolutely awful. And you know what really, really annoys me, really, really upsets me, is with that poor boy, Henry Novak, that he hasn't had the compassion and the empathy to reach out and yet, sends a thing to the mosque in Canada, wherever it was, America, that had got damaged or something. It is outrageous that he cannot reach out to that family, that poor young boy. I had Siobhan White on my show last week.
Yeah.
Again, still no reply. I've spoken to
Nothing
Emma
from
Webber.
Starmer, right?
It is absolutely appalling that this man is such a cold fish. He has got no empathy. He truly is an atheist, and he is a godless man. And I'd love to get him in front of Bishop Kai. I love him.
Oh yeah, isn't he great? He's absolutely brilliant. But this is the problem. I mean, Andy Burnham thinks that he's going to get in, not only because he thinks he deserves to get in, but he just has to, put a pair of shorts on and run around for a bit. He needs to tell people what his policies are. He's showing off his tattoo of the Manchester Bee. Well, great. Why would that mean I should vote for him?
Did Starmer go up there to support him? Because I saw that as an act of sabotage.
Yeah. Well, no, he's done another U-turn on that. He's now declared he's not going to go because obviously Burnham's gone, well, no, we're fine. You stay where you are. Don't come up here. And it was the only smart thing Starmer's actually suggested doing since he's been in power. Because he would have completely kiboshed Burnham's chances, absolutely ridiculous. Hilarious though. Now I'm going to ask you about your favourite thing about Scotland because we've got a poll. It's either haggis coming in at 16%, kilt coming in at 21%, Nicola Sturgeon bringing up the rear at 8%, and whiskey 55%. I've got a feeling you might be going for that.
Well, I don't like spirits. I'm not, I'm a wine drinker. You know that. And it's about time I went on plonk again. That's all.
Well, yes. Listen, you have to talk to Charlotte about that.
I actually like haggis. I know people. I mean,
I love haggis.
I love haggis, nips and tatties, and maybe whiskey with the, the Burns night thing. I just love. I love Scotland. I love the Scots. I love the food. One of my boys went to Edinburgh University, and I love it. I love it up there.
It's a lovely place. It is a lovely place. Ruined, unfortunately, like most places, by the politicians. Because everybody else is absolutely fine. Great to see you, Marilyn. Thank you very much indeed. We'll get you on plonk soon, I'm sure. Take care of yourself. Marilyn Hawes there. Not happy with Andy Burnham. And who can blame her? Why would you be happy with Andy Burnham? Absolutely nothing ridiculous. But we're going to go live now up to Makerfield because we have our very own reporter, Callum Smiles, who's going to be telling us exactly what's going on the streets up there. Callum, welcome to the show. Very good morning to you.
Morning, Mag. How are you doing?
Yeah, very well indeed. It's a bit puzzling for me, Makerfield, because I keep seeing polls that don't quite add up. Nobody's quite sure how well Burnham's doing. He's obviously making out that he thinks he's going to win. Reform, we are told, are pretty much neck and neck. Restore have got their people out there saying that we think we've got 25-30% of the vote. Polls that don't really count are showing them on 7. The Greens are involved as well. What have you found out since you've been there?
Well, from literally driving through the town, it appears to be very much a 2-horse race between Labour and Reform.
Yeah.
I'm currently in the Bryn ward, which is where Robert Kenyon's ward is, the Reform candidate. But I think, personally, I think Burnham's got this. Because it's very interesting, actually, when you look at the local election results. Now, everyone sees that Reform wiped the floor with it. But obviously, local elections always have a lower turnout. But it's very interesting to see that actually the Labour vote from 2024 and 2026 basically stayed the same. So there is still a strong Labour vote here. And it's also worth making a point as well, in the local elections, despite getting a hammering, Labour comfortably came second. They were over 200 seats ahead of the Liberal Democrats. So, I mean, I'm seeing next to nothing regarding Greens and Lib Dems. They are just a non-starter here.
Right.
It's between Reform and Labour from what I'm seeing, and a potential outsider in Restore. They could be the kingmakers. The only three pamphlets and party propaganda I've seen here is Labour, Reform and Restore.
So the Greens have been mentioned to me as a kind of a shall we say, a sort of a mystery promise on the outside, because nobody's quite sure whether the lefties, who may not like Andy Burnham enough to put him into power, actually will split that vote and go Green and maybe reduce the Labour vote, because I think Kenyon came second, didn't he, in the general election in 24?
He did. So I mean, this is his second run at it. It's very much not a Green area. It's fun enough, actually, that the demographic makeup is very similar to Great Yarmouth, but it's very much old school Labour here. So it's the sort of people that are working class with conservative values but don't quite realise it.
Yeah.
So they are more likely, if they're to abandon Labour, they're more likely to go Reform.
Yeah.
However, I'm getting the impression here that there's people here that want to back Burnham purely to oust Starmer.
Yeah.
And you can't deny he is a popular man in the Northwest. Come the 2024 Greater Manchester mayoral election, he won it by over 400,000 votes. He is a popular man here, and a lot of people do see him as a guy that would bring Labour back to the Labour that they used to vote for. So I think he's got it. I think the odds are correct in that he is the favourite. But, a week is a long time in politics, and there's nearly 3 weeks to go.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, one of the interesting developments that's going to be happening later on today is the Mandelson papers are going to get released in London. Now, the police are apparently urging some of them not to be released because they don't want to jeopardise some kind of future investigation. But we're told that it's going to be pretty embarrassing for quite a lot of current cabinet members and people like Wes Streeting and others who will have had exchanged emails with Mandelson, and it might make them look a bit stupid, which is probably going to play in Burnham's favour unless there's any with him, because we don't know if he's mates with Mandelson, because he comes from that period of Labour's success. He was a special advisor to Chris Smith in 1997. He was inside the government building, when Tony Blair was in charge and when Gordon Brown was in charge. And so he knows Mandelson. So whether there's anything that comes out of that will be interesting.
Yeah, he's in a very interesting position, isn't he, Andy Burnham? Because obviously he's been Labour for decades now.
Yeah.
But he's kind of in that little protected bubble of he's not been in this parliament. So a lot of the Starmer stuff, he can basically go, whoa, nothing to do with me.
He can.
And as you can clearly see in his campaigning, it's vote for me to kick Starmer out.
Yeah. Right.
Now,
because he's not coming out with much. He's not coming out with much by way of policy. I mean, he's on the front of the Mail today. Headline says, "You've not won anything yet, Andy." And there's a picture of him at the start of the Great North Run, I think it is, or the Great Manchester Run, I should say, showing off his Manchester B tattoo on his bicep. But he's not really saying much about what he would do. It's all about just vote for me because I'm a good guy and I run around a lot.
Well, these days, to be fair, given how most politicians are, that's probably a good thing to vote on someone for.
I mean, he's even allowed himself to be pictured with Angela Rayner wearing a very loud pair of red trousers.
Yeah, it's an interesting move. I mean, I'm just glad it's not the incredibly short shorts again that were shouldn't have been on before 9 p.m. at night.
Yeah, I know. Shocking stuff. Anyway, well, listen, are you going to be up there for a while?
So basically, I'm going around all day today.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to be in the area, and so anything you need, do give me a shout. But it's going to be an interesting one. And actually, personally, I think if I'm Reform and Restore, I want Andy to win this because I want to compete for the Manchester mayoral election.
Yeah.
Which is obviously much bigger than Makerfield, and then also, I mean, I think Andy's played a blinder in terms of. He's not said it, but clearly his team have leaked to the press that he'll call an early election.
Yeah.
Because that's their only chance, because the right-wing vote is now split between Tories, Reform, Restore. But if Nigel wants to bring Rupert back into the fold, they could play a fantastic hand there and
I don't think that's happening
call his
anytime
bluff.
soon.
let him win, and then do it. But, you know, egos and politics.
Yeah.
Can't see that happening.
I think that's the least likely thing to happen, but then you never know. You never know. We could always be surprised. But good to see you. Callum Smiles, thank you very much indeed. Roving around Makerfield. Say hello to him if you see him, because he's going to be letting us know what's going on up there from time to time between now and the 18th of June. We're coming to very nearly the end of the show, though, surprisingly. We're all out of guests. It's time for Pooch's Pooch. What is that? Oh, wow. Brilliant. Oh, that's brilliant. He's quite happy, isn't he?
He's loving it. He's celebrating.
It's like scoring a goal at the Champions League final, isn't it?
Yeah, or when someone misses a penalty.
Oh, when someone misses a penalty. Is that what happened? Should we finish on that? This is great. Brilliant. What a fantastic piece of video. Yeah, or you might say, we were just saying that's like celebrating when you scored a goal at the Champions League, or perhaps celebrating when somebody else has missed one. Just imagine Keir Starmer watching that, huh? Brilliant. Michelle says, fantastic show, Mike and Co. As always, thank you very much, Michelle. Very kind of you. This is the last week I'm going to be here for a while. I'll catch you all tomorrow. Stay safe and have a great day, says Swordfish. I'm off to session 2 of my 3 workouts today. Crikey. See you all tomorrow, says Michelle. Well, you do 3 workouts in a day. When did you do the first one? It's only 10 o'clock now. It's amazing, isn't it? I'm going to do 1 today, and that's enough for me. But I'm also going to be preparing myself for my little trip abroad. I'm going away at the weekend, and I'm going to be away for next week. Russell Quirk will be sitting in the chair here for the Mike Graham Show. So please do lend him your ears and your eyes for the proportion of that. And I'll be back, obviously, tomorrow. I'm here all this week, so don't worry about that. 7 a.m. tomorrow. And we'll be still doing Plank of the Week and Plonk of the Week. But the following week, I'm going to be having a well-earned holiday. Which I'm really looking forward to, actually, I must say. All sorts of good things to come tomorrow, including Russell Quirk, who will be here with the news from the papers, and we'll see you then.
Why don't you relax and be a bit more MG? That would be a triumph.